Matt, I'd like you to act out the opening scene of the classic film All Together Passionately.
Sorry, I'm on the wrong show.
Yes. I'm happy to do it as long as I can go on top.
I think you should speak to Josh.
As long as you've got a cushion, I'm fine with it.
Anybody know All Together Passionately?
It's
Great
not
film.
ringing any bells.
It is the Italian name, I will tell you, for a very famous film, Tutti Insieme Appassionatamente.
I'll be honest, if anything, I'm further away from the answer.
Yeah.
OK, if I do this...
Passion of the Christ.
And I'm twirling around on top of an Austrian mountain.
Sound of Music.
Sound of Music. It is the Italian name.
There's no Italian phrase for the Sound of Music.
Apparently that's what they called it, All Together Passionately.
Oh, no. That sounds like a film you wouldn't watch on a train.
Do you watch a lot of films on trains?
Lots of them. You have
Oh,
to
yes,
be...
because you don't fly,
Yes,
so you spend your
yes.
life on a train.
So you have to be very careful sometimes if you have a film with a bit of...
Naughtiness.
Naughtiness.
Ooh. Yeah.
You have to turn it to the window.
Does anybody here cry at movies on planes that you wouldn't normally cry at? Like Paul Blart Mall Cop? I mean, floods. Not even the movie, sometimes it's a credit card ad. Like, oh my God, she lost her credit. Oh, she got it back. Oh, thank God. So many emotions to handle in one commercial.
Well, here's the thing about The Sound of Music. It was so popular in South Korea when it was first released. One theatre owner in Seoul made the film shorter by cutting out all the musical numbers. He could show it more often.
Do you know what? I've never seen it.
Oh, Josh.
Oh, really? Never?
You never see the... You are 16 going on 17.
Yeah, it's like that, but with a tune. And... I was once lucky enough to meet Julie Andrews. It's the only time in my entire life I've been completely speechless.
Because she wouldn't shut up.
She just been asking me what my favourite things were. It's very annoying.
I'm not laughing, I don't know.
Do you like them tied up with string? I bet you do, girl. I bet you do. What's the deer? What's the female deer? Come on, leave it alone. Do you want to see the goat herd? It wasn't me singing. High on the hill. On Maria. I'll be back with you. On Maria. What's up, Julie? God.
I'll be honest, I understood none of that.
What is the roundest thing in the universe? Yeah.
No, just saying.
Oh, no, Oh, not at all.
You should see it. No, the roundest thing in the universe.
Yeah.
Ball bearings.
Ball bearings are quite round, but
I
they...
swallowed a ball bearing.
The
roundest... Dude. you mean smoothest, most...
Well, the most purely round, in other words. Because if you... Well...
The Earth is thingy, is it squashed? It's not round.
No, that's right, it's an oblate spheroid.
Oh, Nelly Furtado! He's got a word for everything.
Is it a liquid drop, a water drop?
They can get jolly round. They can be very round. Very nice. We're actually further out of space than Earth, beyond Earth. It's a cosmic phenomenon.
Is it a black hole?
It's that kind of a deal.
Oh, it's those space helmets, those big round helmets with the things on the top.
Is it the thing called the genius point? Is it the point at which to which everything goes to ultimately?
Not that. It's when a supernova has a gravitational collapse, it turns into something called a neutron star.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, the neutron star.
They're really round.
It's not round!
No, that's not. That's a supernova, I think. That's a supernova. Going supernova.
Then show us the round thing!
He's very upset, aren't you?
Yes!
It only has a diameter of about 15 miles or so, and there isn't one near enough for you to be able to see it with the naked eye.
Have you ever noticed how we always have to take Stephen's word for it?
But what's interesting is that if I had a thimbleful of a neutron star, it would weigh more than a mountain.
Yeah, but you don't.
Yeah.
tell you what, imagine how confused the old woman darning your socks would be if you had a thimble full of it. She was just trying to fix a hole, and and there's all space and time coming out with a thimble. That's no way to treat the elderly.
You're right.
So you put a thimble down and no one could pick it up.
No one at all.
And when you've got a good cleaning lady, you want to hang on to them. You don't want to mess it around. I'm leaving, Mr. D. Why? Well, because of all this space business with your thimbles. I don't like it.
It might have double the mass of the sun, but it's only 15 miles across, roughly. And the highest mountain on it was 5 millimetres. So it is superbly round.
The highest
Because
mountain is...
as opposed to the Earth, which, although the Earth is jolly round, apart from the flat bits at the top, the point about the Earth is it's actually jolly smooth compared to, say, a billiard ball.
Smoother than a ping-pong ball, isn't it?
Yes, now why is that a snooker ball...
I'm sorry, I did not know there would be a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Why is the Earth...
If you were to scale up a snooker ball to the size of the Earth, the mountains and trenches would be hugely greater than our highest mountains or deepest trenches, i.e. the little pits that you can see when you examine a snooker ball closely, if scaled up to the size of the Earth, would be gigantic. So the Earth, in that sense, is smoother than a billiard ball. What conclusion did the great biologist Stephen Jay Gould draw from a lifetime study of fish?
Oh.
Yeah.
They haven't got any legs.
Is that his lifetime study?
Well, no, it wasn't his lifetime study of a fish.
Yeah.
After a while, they smell.
He's a bit thick, and he just stared at me, and they haven't got any legs.
Starfish don't have brains. It's the kind of Louis Walsh of the aquatic world. They really don't have brains, they're starfish.
And they're not really fish, are they, starfish, to be honest?
Well, the word fish is in there, which kind of qualifies them, I think.
Well, is a starfish a fish? Is a jellyfish a fish?
Well, yeah,
cuttlefish a fish?
Yes,
but
the starfish...
crayfish is a lobster.
There's a division, isn't there, in the world, whether it should be down to sort of experts in biology, whether things are fish, or whether it should be down to menus.
Yes.
I think, for example, a crayfish comes under fish in a menu.
He looks like he's reading the sell-by date on that.
He does. Stephen Jay Gould was very great. He's dead now. He's very great. He won a Nobel Prize. He was a paleontologist and an extraordinary biologist. And he came to a conclusion which is...
They can feel no love.
No, that there is no such thing as a fish. A fish has no biological meaning. There is just...
Well, that's so I'm absolutely right. Go with menus.
On a menu it does. But in a menu, a fish is not the same as shellfish or seafood, is it?
It often comes in the same bit and separate from pudding.
Things that live in the sea.
Fish and a pudding are different.
Yeah.
How can something not be something? Something can't be not something, can it? But if you've created a something, then something has to be that something, otherwise you haven't created a something. So it has to be a fish if there is the idea of a fish in the first place.
I swear there's a philosophy somewhere. Slow down, Plato.
There's some sort of ontological argument going there, and of course to us that we use the word fish. But biologically speaking, a salmon is more related to, say, a camel than it is to a hagfish. Like, there are lots of things that fly, like a bumblebee flies, a vulture flies, and there are flying lizards. They're not all birds.
No.
But we call things that swim in the sea fish, and actually, biologically, evolutionarily, they have absolutely nothing to do with each other at all. So, after a lifetime study of fish, biologist Stephen Jay Gould concluded that there's no such thing as an Englishman and a Frenchman were drilling a tunnel under the channel. Who made sure they met in the middle?
They all really dress. Right?
The Frenchman is called Philippe Creuset, and the Englishman is called Graham Fagg. And they did meet in the middle. I mean, they were like just like 300-odd millimetres out. I mean, it was extraordinary how accurate it was. But what would they use to know exactly
sonar,
where
I would imagine.
Shouting? Sonar. Not shouting, no. Just...
We are here! Oh, we've gone past you!
That's the worry.
Coming back!
So then they would just say, no, it's two tunnels. One
Yes.
We'll keep going.
Have you read Birdsong by Sebastian
Indeed,
Faulks?
yes.
It's all about tunnelling.
The saps,
It's a brilliant book.
It is
but they would tunnel underneath the enemy trenches, plant explosives, and then
But of course, the other side were doing the same thing. So they would be. It's a brilliant novel. They're in the tunnel, and everyone has to be completely quiet, and they can hear the Germans tunnelling.
Yeah.
And they think, are they going to let their bomb off? Are we going to let our bomb off? I can't see how quiet it's gone. That's how good the book is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what happens.
Yeah.
But it's really good.
It is.
Be a Scot, be an engineer.
It wasn't a Scot, I'm
come
afraid
on,
to say.
it
You'd
must have
think
been.
it would be.
Is that Superman up the top there?
It is Superman.
Well spotted.
What's going on?
Yeah. They were told to wear high-visibility clothing, and he did.
Yeah. No, he came straight from a party the night before.
I think he did. Obviously, it was some celebration there.
That machine that they used, they had it at the side of the motorway for ages after they'd finished the tunnel. It had a large sign on the side of it, just said, "One careful owner."
The French rather sweetly gave them names. Brigitte, Europa, Catherine, Virginie, Pascaline and Séverine, and they, after the tunnel, they dismantled them and rebuilt them and, you know, kept them. And the British didn't give them names, rather dully, and they made the machines burrow themselves into the ground where they just left them.
That says it all, doesn't it?
Oh.
I'm ashamed. I'm faintly ashamed.
So who did get them to meet in the middle?
A German invented a machine to do it. And the machine is called a gyrotheodolite, because the problem is you can't know where you are underground because you can't use a compass because of the magnetic ore in...
Or GPS.
Or GPS, because you haven't got line of sight, obviously, with the...
Turn left.
Yeah. So it uses big gyrotheodolite.
Do a U-turn where possible.
When possible.
Yes.
Please do a U-turn.
You are under the sea.
Yeah. But no, it was, what would a gyrotheodolite use to find out where you are or where north is? So gyro means?
Revolving.
Revolving. It's the rotation of the Earth. Feels that. So it can work out where north is.
Oh,
So
why don't you just ask Superman?
Yeah, you just ask Superman, who has a little place in the
fact that
North
Superman's
Pole.
got a hard hat. Come on, you're the man of steel. Not too careful.
Yeah. So it was a German invention. His name was Max Schuler.
So they had one at each... the French had one of these machines and the British had one of these
They
machines.
didn't meet halfway, however. Who had got furthest, the French or the English?
Oh, the English, surely.
No, we got furthest.
It was the French,
Yeah.
because the English were wandering about disposing of the earth out the bottom of their trousers. Making sure nobody could see. So we'll just pass the guy vaulting the horse, we'll be fine, come on.
we got further.
Yes, but not because the French were lazy and work shy.
Well, they were talking to their machines, weren't they?
Or
My
because
beautiful machine.
They had geological difficulties their end.
Oh, we are
supposedly.
experiencing geological difficulties at the moment, mon petit cher, but soon it will all be good. No, they're giving the names.
Let's see English do the work.
Remind me, Stephen, of the German who made, what was it, a gyroscopic theodolite?
Yes.
Because I've got to say, a brilliant invention, but not a huge market.
No, you're right. That's unfortunately true. There's just not enough tunnels being built there.
They have sold two.
Yeah.
All going very well. Yes. We were hoping for sales of one, but they're selling two.
There was a man called Colonel Barrog who could have used it in India when they were doing a tunnel for the railway there, and they missed, and he went home and shot himself. He was so ashamed.
Did he hit?
Yeah. Would you believe that they put a man on the moon?
Who? Hey, these guys?
NASA.
Oh, NASA. Yes, yeah, I think
You believe that?
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yes, you believe it. Good, that's all. That's sort of all at the end of the question, really, but you probably know that quite a lot of people don't believe it.
No.
Yeah, but, well, I sort of believe one thing.
Yeah.
Which is, I kind of believe that they might have done some mocked-up fake photographs.
Really, why?
Because I was shown... Someone convinced me of it.
Yeah.
By talking about the angle of light and the shadows on the moon and all that. But then I did an advert with Patrick Moore, and I said, "So, Patrick, did they land on the moon?" And he looked so annoyed with me.
Yeah.
Actually, he explained to me how he had helped map the moon for NASA, and he'd spent years on the project, and the landing site was partly his idea, and if I ever spoke to him again, he was going to be sick in my eyes.
They are rather rather tired. If you'd spoken to Buzz Aldrin, he might have punched you.
I was going to say...
Buzz Aldrin punched someone because
Did
he
he?
just got so tired of these conspiracy arses.
I think it was a television documentary about...
Well, there have been several, of course.
You know, look at this photo. This couldn't possibly have been taken on the moon. This is obviously taken in a studio.
You're getting me started now because one gets very sort of strange about this. But there are a lot of conspiracies. 6% of Americans believe that man didn't land on the moon, but 25% of Britons believe that they didn't. So it's a quarter of our nation are not convinced, apparently.
That's so depressing.
Isn't it?
It is.
The flag, it's one of the thing I read...
the flag is another thing, yes.
The flag, and you
yeah,
think,
but there it is.
Well, obviously they've starched the flag because they wanted to get a good photograph of it. They've stiffened the flag.
No, they haven't stiffened it. That's the point. The fact it's rumpled. There's no breath of wind out there, obviously, because you're in space, which is, as it were, a vacuum. But what there is movement. If you impart movement to something, it doesn't stop moving for a long time because there's nothing to... There's no resistance against it. So they unpacked it, unfurled it, put it down, and it moved back and forth. People said, breeze. Ha-ha. As if, A, they would be stupid enough to fake it and allow the tape that had the breeze in it to go out.
But also, if you went to the moon, the least you'd expect is a flag moved a bit strangely. You know what I mean? You expect him to make the soup dragon, you think, OK, he's not there. The flag moves a bit strangely, I can go with that.
Yeah. Why isn't one of them holding up a camera? Because you can see him reflected, the one taking the picture's reflected in the visor of the one, and he's not holding up a camera like that, you see. But that's because they didn't, in the visors, put a camera up in front of their visor. They were mounted.
You couldn't really actually imagine them getting a camera out, clip,
like that.
wind it up.
I'd like to go to the moon.
You would like?
Oh, yeah, I'd like to do that.
Yeah. I mean, two of the other things, just in case people are saying, but you haven't mentioned the clincher. One was the idea that below the lunar module that landed, there was no crater or sense of disturbed dust. The fact is, the engine's cut off and it hovered down and it very, very quickly landed. And unlike in science fiction films, it doesn't send out spears of flame as it descends. That just didn't happen. So,
because it was designed by, human brains and geniuses, and not a lot of people sitting tapping away at the internet who've got to go up to work in the morning.
Yeah,
who do you trust here?
We are in trouble as a species if people refuse to believe in things that they couldn't actually do themselves.
So true. So true. And the other one was the footprints. They said, look, there's too much moisture because look how clear they are. Only a sort of caked mud could do that, but actually you could do that with flour. The fact is, it's just very fine ground, and there's, of course, it's a vacuum again. It coheres. And the other thing with the mirrors that Apollo 12 astronauts put on the moon, which are now used for bouncing lasers off, for detecting, for example, how far the moon is getting away from us. And you can make incredibly accurate measurements because of mirrors on the surface of the moon. And perhaps to me the clinching one is that America's enemy at the time in the space race was the Soviet Union. And not once did they make a suggestion that they thought America hadn't done it. They never said, no, we know this was hoax.
Yeah.
The fact is, for every ill-conceived argument that the moon landings were a hoax, there's a perfectly logical explanation to put our minds at rest. Have you read 1984? Hands up if you read 1984. Wow, that's pretty good. How many? Yeah. The fact is, research on several occasions show that at least a quarter of the people who claim to have read 1984 are lying. So I'm afraid we have to take points away from you. Yeah. Can you put your hand up if you said you'd read it, but actually secretly you haven't?
Oh, come on.
Come on.
You look very secret.
The honest man in the back has earned some more the audience. I have to confess here, I studied English at university. I haven't read it.
I should hope not. What kind of English degree would it include something written as late as 1940?
Well, that's true. Yes, we read things written in 1370. But I kind of felt I didn't need to, which is an appalling thing to say.
Oh, it's terribly good, Stephen.
Well, I kind of... I
know all the TV shows named after it.
Two, at least. Room 101 and Big Brother.
Oh, that's Room 9.
Oh, sorry. I know how it opens. It opens with the clock striking 13. I know the character's
really
called
good,
Winston.
and they made a film of it with John Hurt.
Yeah.
It's hard to bother, isn't it, when there's a great film of a book? I was the same with A Muppet Christmas Carol. I feel it's been done. I know what the turkey does in the story. Why read it?
It is a masterpiece of a film, it has to be said.
I lie a lot to impress people. And I'll be honest now, I have never read The Hungry Caterpillar. I get so close to the end, and I get too emotional. I'm like, he's gonna die. He's overfed himself. I can't do it, and I stop. So I just pretend that I've read it.
No, no, it
I don't know
becomes a
what happens.
butterfly.
Is he carries his...
Spoiler!
So sorry, that was wrong of me. I knew someone who gave away the end of Psycho. It's nearly as serious as that.
Oh, there are some books that you don't need to bother reading, like good books that you don't need to bother reading. Like, it's controversial to say it, but I don't think Harry Potter is worth reading. It is so expertly narrated on the audiobook. After I listened to the Harry Potter books, with you narrating them, everything in my life is narrated by Stephen Fry. All my thoughts, my internal monologue is now Stephen Fry's voice. Even the dirty thoughts are Stephen's voice. No, because it makes it acceptable. I had a sexual thought the other day, I put my hand in the air, I had a sexual thought about Camilla Parker Bowles. It didn't seem weird because Stephen was saying it to me.
Which war killed the highest proportion of British soldiers?
The American War of Independence. Good guess.
Yeah.
English Civil War.
The English Civil War is the correct answer.
Because everybody killed in the English Civil War was British.
Well, that's absolutely right.
So they must be.
Plus, it was an exceptionally bloody conflict
Very
anyway.
violent.
And the population of the country was quite small.
And all anybody knows about it is the hairstyles. All anybody says, oh, it's Roundheads and Cavaliers. And you think, yeah, that's it, really. One lot looks like the Grumbleweeds, the other lot like Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen, so it all kicks off. That man's got a wooden leg and riding side saddle.
90% of Britons cannot name a single battle of the English Civil War. 80% do not know which English king was executed by Parliament. And 67% of schoolchildren have never heard of Oliver Cromwell.
Good.
As a royalist, do you think his name should be buried?
No, he's a dreadful man.
He was a
truly horrible, one of the most horrible people ever to have walked the land.
But you wouldn't know that if you didn't know about it.
He did terrible damage being a Puritan. He wrecked all our beautiful churches because he ripped away all the iconography and graven images and replaced them with the giant thermometers that you can still see to this day.
So how many British people died in the Civil War, then?
85,000 on the battlefield, another 100,000 dying of their wounds afterwards. People who really suffered were the Irish, of whom it's estimated half the population were decimated by the great Cromwell. And it's an example, a friend told me, who works at the Foreign Office, that dear Robin Cook, when the Labour Party came to power, and we're going to be all ethical, we're going to be all good, they took down some picture in the Foreign Office of a Nepalese prince because they thought it was all imperialist, which deeply offended the Nepalese government. And they put up this big portrait of Cromwell, you know, Republican, you know, sort of lefty figure. And the first meeting they had was with the Irish government. Took one look, and it was like showing Eichmann to the Israeli ambassador. In the 7 years between 1642 and 1649, in the period known as the English Civil War, a staggering 1 in 10 of the adult male population died. Who first cracked the Enigma code? Yes.
Was it the Poles?
Top man! Absolutely right. You're a good soul. Yep. There's a general feeling that we did all the work, but in fact it was a Pole in 1932, as early as that, who first cracked how an Enigma machine worked. But in the late 1930s, the Germans changed the way they worked, so that I think there was something like 364 billion possible settings each day to the daily code. Now, that's not something you could guess. But the first one to crack it in the beginning to see how it worked was a young Polish mathematician called Marian Rejewski. And if you ever go to Bletchley Park, and I do urge you to do so, there is a splendid statue to him. And
have they got a good shop there?
They have a very nice shop. They also have a museum of computing, which I know would excite you almost.
Oh, indeed.
Indeed, I can...
Already moist.
I mean, it is well established. The work on Enigma did do a great deal to hasten the end of the war. Eisenhower estimated that it shortened the war by 2 years, which is hundreds of thousands of lives. So it was an extraordinarily important thing that these boffins got together. But how do you think they were first brought together at Bletchley Park? What was the first move the government made to assemble the boffins?
Singles Club.
It was almost that. It was a telegraph crossword competition. Especially fiendish telegraph crossword. And the winners were sent letters saying, you might be our kind of chap. But anyway, they then soon became aware that having people who knew that cart horse was an anagram of orchestra, was not going to win them the war. They needed really great mathematical minds.
It's when the world changed, isn't
It's
it?
when the world changed.
It'll be fascinating conundrums that the Nazis will set us.
But,
we'll have to find clues and follow them. No, you just need a supercomputer.
But fortunately, there was a man ready for it. It just happened to be that history had thrown up a quite brilliant mathematician called Alan Turing, who was at Cambridge at the time. There he is. He's considered the father of computing, one of the truly great men of his time. And you may remember Gordon Brown making an impassioned but far too late apology on behalf of the British government for his terrible death. He was persecuted for his homosexuality and chemically castrated and then committed suicide by eating a poisoned apple. And there are many to this day who believe that Apple Computers named their apple with the bite out of it in honour of Alan Turing, the father of computing. And I was in a position to ask one of the founders, Steve Jobs, and he said it isn't true, but God, we wish it were. It's just a coincidence, but they're very proud that people think it might be, because he was a simply extraordinary man. But the real fiendish thing was not Enigma, it was called Lorentz. And for Lorentz was used between German High Command and Hitler himself, basically. And Lorentz was unbelievably difficult. And for that, Turing and his team built what really was the world's first computer. It was called Colossus. And it was way ahead of its time. It was quite extraordinary.
It was all a complete sort of national secret until very recently, wasn't it? Or quite recently.
Absolutely. There is Bletchley Park. And it is open to the public. I'm a big advocate for it, so I make no apology for banging its drum. It's a great place.
It's an interesting choice that we took as a nation, though, you know, during the Second World War, which was an expensive experience for us and left us bankrupt. But out of it, we had basically invented the computer, and we decided to make it a secret.
Yes.
Rather than, in any sense, attempting to monetize it.
Actually, we gave the secret of Colossus to the CIA.
Oh, superb.
Yeah.
I
know. It was
an excellent move.
It was.
No one will be needing that.
But there's a great memo, because there were a lot of people in the British government who thought, what are these people in faintly damp tweed with pipes and glasses doing, writing on bits of paper here? And there's quite a big budget. I mean, what are they doing? And Churchill had a look round, and the fellow explained to him what they were doing. And then there's a very famous memo in Churchill's hand that just says, give them what they want. It's fantastic, that, isn't it?
What can I just ask, and you may not be able to answer this, but what was the nature of the Enigma code? Was it mathematical or was
Yes. I mean, don't ask me to give you the precise details. I'm really no expert. But it was a purely physical, mechanical device, but it had so many different rotors that had so many different angles and positions that there were hundreds of billions of permutations. It was our job was to intercept or work out what the code word of the day was, and then we could translate the messages. It was all very odd. But they were very lazy. It relied on Germans making mistakes by using the names of their dogs and things. So a lot of intelligence was gathered about the people in naval intelligence in particular, about what their dogs, their girlfriends, their addresses and things like that, because it's a bit like passwords, you know.
I'm beginning to think that people will be able to hack into my John Lewis account now.
Not named after your
It's
dog,
ironic.
surely.
They invented a computer and finished the war early, but the cyber war being waged by China will be the death of all of us.
Yeah, there is some... You know, the worry about it is, I mean, I was speaking to a man at Los Alamos, which is where they developed the nuclear bomb, and obviously the science now goes in other directions. They said they had something like 1 million attacks an hour on their sort of cyber front-end security. And I said, well, hackers? And they said, no, nations. Well, let's be honest, one nation. And I was interviewing him on camera, and I said, would it rhyme with Biner? And he said it might well do. And I said, that's how many times they're battering on the doors of your security.
Well, they
said,
must do. You know, they've got thousands of computers.
Absolutely, they're just slave...
Trying to work it out 24 hours a day.
And presumably we're attempting in our own befuddled way to do the same.
If we've got a ZX80 on it 24
Except when Wimbledon's on.
Yeah, we've got a pro that can get a tiny bucket out of a Perspex tube. Take that, China.
If by some terrible, terrible concatenation of circumstances, both my co-pilot and I on this flight were suddenly taken ill, how would you land this plane?
Can't they just land themselves on an instruments landing?
Can't you? I'd stop reading the Kindle on the steering wheel. And
That would be a wise start, yes.
Don't you radio... There's the co-pilot slumped, normally.
Yes.
In these situations.
Yeah, someone talks you in.
And somebody talks you in?
That's what happens in the movies, definitely, isn't it?
Yes. Like Robert Duvall probably would be good. That's who I'd ring.
Or Lloyd Bridges, in the case of Airplane, the movie.
Perfect choice.
Yeah.
Presumably there are legal problems with someone talking you down, though, because you could then subsequently sue if it was interpreted by your relatives that you were given bad advice. So probably these days the air traffic controller would refuse to give advice and would say, "I'm sorry, we're not covered for my saying."
That's right. You'd have to sign a waiver and sort of text it to them, and then they would insurance would cover you to be talked down.
It is a minefield. Extraordinarily and happily, it has never occurred in commercial airline travel history that someone has been, as it were, oh gosh, can anyone fly this plane because the pilot and co-pilot are ill or dead? It's never actually happened, but it would be fraught with difficulty. They have tried various simulations. For example, those with American civil private pilot licenses in America who can fly light planes were invited onto simulators of big jets. Yeah. And one of them couldn't even operate the seat that moved him towards the control. Another one turned the radio off. Another one turned off the autopilot and instantly crashed the plane. So the fact is, it's incredibly difficult.
Stephen, am I allowed to say that in your uniform how incredibly unlike a pilot you look?
So what do I look like instead? Be brutal, be frank.
No, I think you'd be the chap who calls himself the bursar. He comes round, he's got a big leather wallet and takes money for duty-free.
Yeah, calls himself the
bursar.
Yeah.
Yes.
He calls himself the bursar?
Yes, I think he does, yeah.
Or the purser.
The purser.
The bursar is like the one that does the money for a...
public school.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
What What kind of planes are you flying on?
Yeah.
Yes, the bursar will be collecting money for the end of term jamboree.
Here on a Charterhouse Air.
Yeah.
The bursar with the trolley, and then with the drinks, the groundsman.
Anyway, the fact is it's fraught with difficulty. The first problem you would have is simply getting into the cockpit, because since 9/11, of course, cockpits are locked. And if the pilot and the co-pilot were truly too ill to be able to fly, they may well be too ill even to let you in to the cockpit. But
do they have a secret knock? When they go and give them their lunch, though, surely they have to get in.
Yes.
So they must have a coded knock or something, like, it's me. I've got your lunch. Something like that. And they go, oh, must be the lunch.
It must be, it must be Deirdre with the lunch. The lunch is. Now, why do I say lunch is?
Because there's more than one.
But why is there more? You are accruing points at a fantastic rate.
God, I tell you what.
Yes, there are more than one. But why would there be more than one lunch? Why would they?
They have to eat different meals.
Yes, the pilot and the co-pilot must eat different meals.
Oh, in case one of them gets botulism.
Exactly, so that if one is by accident poisoned or whatever. And in the case of extra long-haul flights, there are 3 pilots, not 2.
So you can't get into the cockpit. It's very, very dangerous. Never been done.
Yeah,
so...
and if it was on autopilot, you'd be able, obviously, to fly level and it would continue. But once you got into the landing situation, yes, the kind of film scenario would take over, whereby you would be told how to operate the flaps and at what speed. But there are so many variables in terms of glide path and vertical and horizontal axes and so on. It really is extraordinarily difficult. There is an auto-land system.
There's no way of flying it remotely, then, from the ground? Like with just somebody with a Wii or something, you know.
I don't know. Maybe one day.
Someone comes in the room.
What?
It's a horrifying thought, but fortunately, as I say, it never has yet happened in major commercial air. Now, if I can be serious for a moment, more than 100 million people were killed in wars during the 20th century, and the total number of people ever killed by wars could be as many as 1 billion. Einstein described war as a cloak that covers acts of murder, and Antoine de Saint-Exupéry called it a disease like typhus. With all that in mind, here is my question to you. Why did Hitler have such a silly moustache?
Thank God for that. I thought I was on the wrong show for a minute. Well, very serious.
I'm sure you'd agree with my description of war there, wouldn't you,
I would absolutely. This is a difficult show for me to be on because I'm a Quaker pacifist. So I'm not an ideal person.
Were you born a Quaker?
No, I wasn't. I was a Quaker by convincement, as they call it.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And because my family, the Fry family, were very early Quakers.
Of course they
all
were.
the way.
Of course they were.
It's
yeah.
a very admirable thing, and the pacifism is taken very seriously, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's a lovely thing until Hitler comes along, and then it's not much use.
Well, if we'd have done something about it before Hitler came along, then maybe it would
Shaved his moustache
And I
off.
think the reason he had that moustache is he was probably a fan of Oliver Hardy.
Ah, well, it's certainly true that they were popular in the 20s and increasingly in the 30s. Well, Charlie Chaplin,
Exactly.
of course, is best known. But supposedly Hitler changed from what was a relatively bushy moustache. You may have seen a famous photograph of him as a Gefreiter, a corporal in the First World War. There he is on the left. But there are a couple of stories. No one's quite sure which is true. There was a fellow who served with him, Alexander Moritz Fry, great-uncle Alexander. He was in the same regiment in the First World War as Hitler, and he said that Hitler trimmed it into the familiar toothbrush in order to fit into the gas mask properly.
Oh.
Fry's account is controversial, apparently. He went on to become a satirist and fantasy novelist, starting a family tradition.
Here's the point about Hitler. He's judged very harshly by history, but he did kill Hitler.
I can't take that away from you, Jimmy.
Credit
It's a
when
true
credit
fact.
is due.
That's true. Some historians believe that Hitler only adopted the tash in 1919, and his sister-in-law, who lived in Liverpool...
Well, she had one as well.
Do you know what her name was?
Muriel.
Almost, as it were.
Gauss Adolf.
Bridget Hitler.
Bridget Hitler.
Yeah, that was her name. Bridget Hitler.
Bridget Hitler?
Yeah. Yes, she was married to Alois Jr., who was Hitler's half-brother. And they had a son, William Patrick Hitler.
Billy Hitler.
William Patrick Hitler went to America and won a Purple Heart in the Navy.
Changed his name, I presume.
Eventually to Stuart Houston, I think. And he claimed he wanted to forget anything to do with his uncle, but he named his first son Alexander Adolf Stuart Houston. Anyway, yes, Bridget, in her memoir, said that he came to visit Liverpool and that she told him that he should trim the ends of his moustache to make it less bushy. But, as she put it, as in most things, he went too far. Put him in his place.
Where are 1% of American adults?
Oh, I imagine we could find out, couldn't we? We could use Google Earth, because some of them are quite big. There's one. He's got his own postcode.
1% of the population, which is... What's the population? It's about
300 million, isn't it?
So you're talking about between 2.5 and 3 million, say?
Jail.
Yes. G for jail. English spelling of jail, of course, but it is G for jail.
Really, that many people? 3 million people are locked up.
Well, 2.3, which
See,
is
all-
1 in every 99.1 adults.
All of those guys there are innocent as well, because they all were arrested for having switchblades, but they've all only got one arm.
Well spotted. Proportionally, Americans are prison more than twice as many as South Africans, more than 3 times as many as the Iranians, more than 6 times as many as the Chinese. No society in history has imprisoned more of its citizens than the United States of America.
We do pretty well, though, don't we? We sort of top
don't-
the European League.
We're ahead of China, Turkey and India.
Yes.
Yeah, with 148 prisoners per 100,000.
It's the 3 strikes and they're out.
That's
sort of thing
been the
really
problem,
bumped it up
yeah.
recently.
I mean, a legal system based on baseball just seems bizarre. People don't seem to understand the law. It's all very complicated. What's simple? What do people like? Baseball. Right then. Here's the rule.
3 strikes and you're out, yeah.
Mental.
What it means is if the first 2 strikes, the first 2 crimes you're convicted of are serious enough, the third one, no matter how trivial, will get a life sentence, 25 years or more. So, for example, Leandro Andrade is serving 2 consecutive 25-year terms for shoplifting 9 videotapes. Or...
He took 9?
Yes. Kevin Webber, 26 years for stealing 4 chocolate chip cookies. It's astonishing.
It's really stupid, isn't it? Because if you know you're on this sort of deal...
Yes.
Yeah.
Take 5.
Yes.
That is
Do another murder. Do a bank job. There's no point...
There's no point doing anything trivial.
If
No,
you're
I know.
going to get caught.
It is a bit bonkers. But the racial numbers are a bit worrying. And the gender numbers, it's 1 in 30 men aged 20 to 34 is behind bars. But for black males, that's 1 in 9. 1 in 9. There are more 17-year-old black people in jail than in college in America. So 5% of the world are American, 25% of all prisoners
Isn't the
are
real
American.
controversy with this the business end of it?
Well, that's true. It's also, as you say, right, it is a business.
Because it's not just license plate, they make loads of stuff.
Well, one of the things I should have said when talking about contraband is that you're not allowed to bring into America anything that's been made by forced labour or prisons. But in America, you could almost say, if you were so minded, that they've reinvented the slave trade. They produce, for example, 100% of all military helmets, ammunition belts, bulletproof vests, ID tags and other items of uniform, 93% of domestically produced paints, 36% of home appliances, 21% of office furniture, which allows the United States to compete with factories in Mexico because, of course, obviously the workers can't refuse to work for 25 cents an hour.
I very much like to say something hilarious, but something must be done.
It is.
Should we...
It
feels a bit more question-timey, this is.
It is a bit amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
It's slavery by the back door.
Exactly what it is.
Which is another video that I've got.
Why did it take 300 years to give the giant tortoise a scientific name?
A scientific name?
Yeah, i.e. the Latin name. It turned out to be called Geochelonia, you know.
Is it because they just thought that was pretty good, giant tortoise?
We'll leave it with that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah?
No, I was going to say something about which now it's unusable. I'm going to have to say it now.
Go on. How with it, man?
They thought...
It's better be good.
They thought it was a normal tortoise, but closer. It was what I was going to say. You see what I mean? But I couldn't get that concept. It's like, would it be actually further away? And a normal one further away would be actually a minute one. Would they mistake a quite far away normal one for a miniaturised one that's a bit ordinary?
Yeah, but the thing that you're saying is that the tortoise can be...
It's a further way. If they said...
I like it. Oh, go that way.
Yeah. If there was like a tortoise over there that was giant, but I for some reason thought it was just there, then I wouldn't think it was giant. I'd think it was just, oh, there's just one there. It was just a normal tortoise there, nothing about that. Oh my God, it's over there and it's back!
It would have to be on a huge beach with no other points of reference.
Well, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Are they...
That's not the reason.
Are they particularly litigious? Now, if you give me a name, I will sue you.
No, it wasn't that. It's a nice thought to get. No, they had another property which was most unfortunate for them to have.
What, the tortoises did?
Yeah.
They were edible.
They were so edible. Anyone, I mean...
Anyone who saw one couldn't stop to think of a name for it. They just had to eat it straight away.
Really? One of those...
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
they're cool.
Do you know...
Just get one, they're really very good.
There's no Latin name for the pistachio nut. Exactly the same way. No one can be bothered. Just shut up with your Latin. Eat them. They're brilliant.
That's what happened.
No Latin name for Maltesers.
None of them made it. It's kind of true. None of them made it to London. None of them made it to Europe.
This time, we're going to take it and we'll take London.
Tuck it. Leave it. No.
However,
Take it back. People getting up in the ferry coming into Dover. There's a bloke going... leaving the door with a tortoise instead.
all right, look. We'll take 9 of them. We'll eat 8.
And everyone's looking at it and going, come on.
The seas become... The days on end, the seas become as one tortoise left.
Yeah.
Come on, sir. Come on, we'll go back. Let's just go back and get some more.
Imagine the moment after they've eaten that last tortoise. They're sitting there thinking, we are twats. I'm too full.
Even Darwin, on Darwin's last dozens. There were dozens.
He collected every species in the world and he ate that one.
They had them all. They did.
I've done all those. Done all the butterflies. Done all the beetles. I'm eating that.
The only descriptions of them are comparing them to chicken, beef, mutton, and butter, and saying they're how much better they are than all of those things. No one who'd ever eaten tortoise had ever eaten anything better.
Why are they not farmed?
And the liver and the bone marrow, every part of it was unbelievably
Whereabouts
delicious.
are they from?
Well, from the tropics,
Are
mostly.
there flights over there?
They are now protected. All 12 species.
They're that delicious, they can't be. Well, they just say, yeah, we're protected, and they're all in there, no need to look.
They're fine. There's a border around them, like North Korea. Yeah. There's a big pile of shells, like those piles of tyres you see in a scrapyard.
But there were some that survived, however, and let me tell you about a very extraordinary
That
one.
bloke there, he's just befriending that one. Yeah, come over here, my pretty. I'm trying to think of a name for you.
But they are amazing animals, apart from how delicious they are. Adwaita died in 2006, and he was Clive of India's pet. There he is.
Oh, they're 200 years old or something.
255. He was born before Mozart, before the French Revolution, and his death was announced on CNN. I mean, that's a heck of a life,
And you can list his achievements on the back of a stamp.
Well, why would he need to?
Well, his principal achievement is it wasn't.
He lived 255 years. People think probably the oldest living creature because they don't live so long out of captivity like most animals, and he was, well cared for. But that is a pretty astonishing
It is quite...
lifespan.
So it lived 255 years and is massive. I mean, I've achieved 50% of that. That's great.
There are 12 species of them, all of them endangered. Well,
They
one.
all taste nice?
Well, I don't know, but it's very sad that they have so many were other species were, basically wiped out just because they were so lovely. Not only that, they were also used as water stores. It sounds a weird thing, but they have a special kind of internal bladder that stores water so perfectly that it's drinkable. When you slit them open to cook them, you also get, like a gallon of fresh water.
Wow.
So they would stack them up on boats, tons of them. They'd be stacked up, one on the other, and they couldn't move. And they didn't need to be fed for months, so that they actually contributed a lot to whaling and other things because they were used as a foodstuff and a water supply that was just kind of permanent.
So you've got the
on board.
water as well. And imagine if you smash the shell open, there's like a little toy in there, like a Kinder. Like a little game, you've got to get the balls in the holes.
So how do they exist in the wild anyway, if they're so delicious and slow-moving and massive and useful?
They didn't have any natural predators until man discovered them, basically.
Right. So they were evolutionarily complacent.
They were exactly like a lot of island species. They're a lot like that, and it's only man who crosses islands in the way we do
All those
who does it.
ridiculous flightless birds on New Zealand.
Yeah,
Essentially, they got lazy.
Yeah.
They got lazy. What's the point in flying? Now, some of them go, we'll need it one day. I bet we'll need it one day. Nah. You're too anal, you are. Just walk around, it's easier.
Yeah. Anyway, despite being discovered in 1535, giant tortoises weren't properly catalogued by science until the early 19th century because they were so delicious that no samples ever... What would you call someone who never laughs?
That bloke.
Yeah, right. He hasn't cracked a smile all evening, has he? No.
He might be dead. Nudge him.
Yeah.
Are we looking for a phobia word?
Yeah, agelastic, meaning that they don't laugh. And there are people who don't have it, who, it seems, have no sense of humour.
can't laugh.
Well, who knows? I mean, there's a sort of epilepsy where you... a lot, which is an unusual affect.
Shock, that was shocking.
It's giving you a shock.
I've got an interesting sort of Greek-type word for something that I do sometimes where I can't help the sort of urge to do an impression of somebody. And sometimes if somebody's got like a limp or a bit of a funny walk, I kind of want to go along with it, which is a terrible thing to do. And apparently, when you do this thing of wanting to take on somebody's limp in an inappropriate way, it's called echopraxia.
Oh,
and if you do it with words, we're trying to imitate a person sort of verbally, it's echolalia. That's great,
very
isn't it?
points.
Yes.
Points.
Isn't it great?
Brilliant.
It's also, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's called taking the piss as well.
Yeah, but it almost defines being a human, doesn't it, laughter? Because animals don't laugh.
Yeah.
They don't have that capacity to sort of
put the two things together.
Very,
and
very
give it-
social as well. It's a very social sort
Yes.
of... People
Yeah.
tend not to laugh on their own. Like, even watching a show as hilarious as this,
Yes.
at home on your own, you won't laugh in the same way as the studio
No.
audience. It's why people often think it's sort of canned laughter rather than you are genuinely laughing at bits.
Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't if there were anybody here. But
Yeah.
Because there's that sort it's a very social thing. You're sort of
Yes, you're
showing
right.
someone else that you get the
Yeah.
thing and you understand.
Absolutely, it is a communal thing. There are people in history who are said to be age-elastic, including Isaac Newton, who was supposed to have laughed once in his life when someone asked
When
him
an apple
what...
fell on his head.
No. Someone asked him what was the point of studying Euclid, and he burst out laughing at that.
Yeah, no, that is a good one, though.
That is a good one.
What is he like?
According to Marshal Zhukov, Stalin, next door, he didn't laugh.
I'm
And next
amazed
to-
at that. He seems such a chirpy cat.
And then
can't tell behind his
you've probably
moustache, he could be
spotted
chuckling.
Jonathan Swift and William Ewart Gladstone. and-
Jonathan Swift, a very funny writer, so...
I know,
Lots
it's
of
bizarre thought.
comedians don't laugh.
Spinoza.
You know, lots of comedians are quite miserable in real life, aren't they? Not us, obviously.
The bloke on the left and the bloke on the middle are the same.
On the left, he's been on a diet. Or
That's an advert for the Chin Gym.
yeah.
The one on the left is Isaac Newton.
That's Newton, right?
And the one in the middle is Jonathan Swift. Trollope, on the other hand, Anthony Trollope...
Couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, he died giggling, apparently. He laughed a lot.
Didn't he work in the post office? That's probably what
He
it is.
did.
He went postal. He was...
Yeah, he invented the postbox.
Yes.
And lived to regret it, actually.
Because once he was in, he couldn't get out.
He was sorry for a very odd reason, actually. He was very old-fashioned about what women should and shouldn't do. And what he hadn't predicted was what the post office would suddenly allow women to communicate with anyone freely. Because before the postbox, they would have to go to their father or a servant who would put the stamp on, and it would be taken. And suddenly they were able to send their own letters and have relationships without their parents' consent. And he presented this.
What has he done?
It is a law of unintended consequences, exactly. Bizarre thought. Anyway,
Good
quite
old
irrelevant.
Trollope.
There are theories of laughter. There's the superiority theory, which is the sudden glory we feel when we see someone suffer.
It's very simple, the superiority theory, but a lot of people don't understand it.
Very good. There's the incongruity theory. It arises when the decorous and logical abruptly dissolves into the low and absurd. We wouldn't farting well want that. For example. Not that I would say that. The relief theory, which is Freud. The naughtiness of the joke liberates the laughter from inhibitions about forbidden thoughts and feelings.
That's watching Jackass for me, I do.
Yeah. You've written a book about it. What was The Naked Jape?
The Naked Jape. I wrote a book with my friend Lucy about jokes. And the nature of jokes.
Did you come to a theory about...
No, I mean, they are all... You can analyse... There's all these different sort of theories from around the world, and they're all pretty much nonsense.
Yeah.
They all work in exactly the same way, though. All jokes are sort of two stories. So the first story makes you make an assumption, and then the second story makes you
Subverts it,
realise that the assumption was...
I like the one
erroneous.
that the Englishman, a Scotsman and an Irishman go into a pub and the barman says, what is this, some kind of joke? A sort of a meta joke.
Yeah. When I told them I wanted to be a comedian, they laughed. Well, they're not laughing now.
That is...
It's Monkhouse.
Bob Monkhouse, yeah. That's a brilliant
But it's hard when you're writing about comedy to make it funny as well. Were you trying to be funny as you went along,
Well,
or did you just...
in the end, we just had to put a joke on every page, because some of it's a bit sort of more complicated. And there's a great quote about analysing jokes is like dissecting a frog. No one's that interested, and the frog dies.
Yes. Pulling up the roots of a plant to look how it works.
Yeah, and killing it as you do it, exactly. Anyway, age-elasts are people who don't laugh at gags.
Now, what is it about software engineers that drives people to violence?
I don't like software which anticipates needs I don't have. The sort of spell checker thing which corrects your spell which you didn't want to spell. I've got RSI now from correcting the corrections on my phone.
If I want to type the C word, and I do sometimes, it comes up with Cynthia, and that's my mother-in-law's name. And she's lovely. It seems so unfair.
Let's hope it doesn't work the other way round.
Unfortunately, in the original Greek, it is Kunthia. Is
it?
There is no letter Y in Greek. It's an upsilon.
That's
to U.
alarming.
It is Kunthia. Yeah, I'm going back to the very first software engineer that ever was.
Babbage.
Well, Babbage owed an enormous debt to this person.
Ada Lovelace.
Ada Lovelace also owed a debt to this person.
I'll
Ada
get my
Lovelace
cloak.
wanted to use the second... You've done very well. Ada Lovelace was the daughter of...
Mr. Software.
So disappointing.
Because, you know, Mr. Baker, don't you?
Yes, you do.
Mr. Butcher.
Old
Mr.
Jeremiah
Cooper.
Software.
But it's so much more interesting that she happened to be the daughter of Lord Byron, and she was one of the great mathematicians of her age. And she was a woman we should celebrate. And she was a colleague, as you say, of Charles Babbage. And they had got their difference engine, and they wanted to steal the idea of a Frenchman who'd come up with the idea. It's a software idea. It was for automating something. As a little boy, he used to sit on a particular type of machine and watch it working and thinking, I could make this better. And he invented a punch card system for it. And he has, its name is...
It's not those pianos that
No,
play
no,
themselves.
pianolas use the same system, but this is before that. It's much more useful because it made something everybody in the world wanted to buy, which is clothes and textiles.
Oh, is it for, like, a pattern on
A loom.
cloth?
A loom.
Right.
It's a loom, and it's a particular kind of loom. Jacquard is the name. Joseph Marie Jacquard. And he was an extraordinary man, born in 1752. And these looms were used right up until our lifetimes. There you are.
Look at that.
That's what he invented. Now, you look at those punch cards, you think, now, what can that do? Babbage correctly saw this couldn't just make a loom and a tapestry and a picture, but it could also possibly do calculations and other such things that mathematicians were interested in. And so we have a portrait of Jacquard himself, which is done in woven silk using a Jacquard loom. That is done by punched cards. Isn't that astonishing? The depth, the tone, look at the knees there, the way the cloth is. I mean,
Looks almost like a photograph.
It almost looks like a photograph.
You think
That
you'd be
is-
happier, wouldn't you?
Well, that's true. Smiling in photographs is a very recent thing.
Oh,
It was
really?
never considered normal. It was considered weird to smile. But the question was, why did he drive people to violence?
Oh, because he... Was it like Luddites? Did they come and smash his machinery?
They did, because it took so much work
These
away
are
from
the
them.
shoe throwers, the saboteurs.
And what's the French for a wooden shoe?
A sabot.
A sabot is a clog, and they would throw their clogs into the looms to break them up. And a sabot was known as sabotage, and that's where we get our word sabotage. They would sabotage his machines. And actually, Luddites in Britain were nothing like as violent as the saboteurs of France in Lyon and places like
Different
that.
footwear, I suppose.
Different footwear.
Do more with a clog, can't you, than a conventional shoe?
We had an outbreak of it in my parish.
Did you?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. It's a shoe area, so when the automation of the shoe trade came in, there was a bit of smashing up of machines.
That's a nightmare, though, because if the people are destroying the machines with shoes, if the machine's still going, they're just making ammunition. Their own destruction.
I don't think they use shoes.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Just
As they come out, chuck them back at the machine.
You don't have to use shoes to make a machine break. It just the French wore wooden clogs and those sabots. But it is fascinating, isn't it, to think...
Where would we be without trees?
Well, so true.
Let's try a parlour game to get us started. One Victorian parlour game was called Taboo. You were asked a question and had to answer without using a taboo letter of the alphabet. Our taboo letter tonight is obviously N, so please answer the following questions without using the letter N. Matt, name a tasty yellow fruit grown mostly in the Caribbean and Central America. In the Philippines, its name has been corrupted to bayabas.
Is it, a ba'a? I'm trying to think what's nice and yellow. Crisps. I'm going for crisps.
It's a tasty yellow fruit.
Yeah.
So, no, the answer is guava.
Oh.
Is the answer we were
Oh, there is an
looking for.
answer.
There is an answer.
I've been playing this game wrong for years.
It isn't banana at all. The answer is guava, is the fruit
Guava.
that we were looking for. In the Philippines, it has been corrupted to bayabas. Do you know what the Filipinos call bananas?
No.
They call them bananas. I could have got you with that one, had
Yeah.
you fallen for it. Susan, what do you call a woman who looked after Victorian children whose mothers were social equals but couldn't be asked to do the job themselves?
Well, I would call them the help.
Which is nice, but not the correct term.
Well, then I would call them... You've got such a gaze, Sandy. It's like the Eye of Sauron.
Sorry, but Sauron's got an N in it.
Oh, I
would have said the nanny or a governess. Yes. I was essentially cajoled into that.
You were. So, not nanny, obviously, because how many N's have we got there, Susan?
At least 2.
At least 2. Also, not socially equal, the nanny. It's au pair.
Oh, no, I almost...
Yeah, au pair, been around.
How annoying, isn't it?
Start with your own. Oh, it was on the tip of my tongue there.
It's been around since the 1840s, the word au pair. Well, it literally means social equal, au pair.
Does it?
Yeah.
Have you met our social equal? She's really, really fit. He's only run off with the social equal.
So, nobody's doing very well, but I'm relying on Josh to get this one right.
Watch and learn.
OK, here we go. What do you call a Roman Catholic religious woman who has taken simple vows of poverty, chastity and obedience?
Is it the au pair? That was guava. Oh, it's difficult, isn't it, now?
Yeah, not so quick with the answers now.
Tracy? Go on, then. None.
None.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. The answer is a sister. So a nun has taken solemn vows, but a sister has taken simple vows. It's a technical difference to do with the repudiation of property. So a nun's solemn vow repudiates property absolutely. A sister's simple vow allows her to reserve an interest. Hedging her bets, Josh. Hedging her bets, that one. Right, Alan.
Yes.
Name any of the digits in the common emergency telephone number. So there's an emergency number which is...
999.
999.
They're great guys. They're great guys.
But the common emergency telephone number is 112.
Is it?
Yeah, so you can use it on a mobile phone, even if it's locked or you haven't got a SIM card.
It has got ends in 112.
Well, I asked you to name any of the digits in the common emergency number. So you could have said 2.
Oh, my word.
2.
Well, it's Christmas, so Alan wins that one. There we go.
What were chainsaws originally invented for? Proctology. Wow. That's scary.
Yeah, that's a...
Slicing an arse in half.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you're in the right area, I have to say.
What,
I mean,
really?
well,
Circumcision.
What I mean is, you began straight away with medicine. You didn't say trees or, you know, cutting down
cutting
you know,
off legs.
buildings.
Like bones and...
Bones is the right answer. Yes, in particular, it was a rather unpleasant procedure.
Oh, don't. It'll be a boy thing against a girl thing. It
Well,
will
not
be.
against, you know.
Well, no,
It's doctors trying to help.
Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. It'll be a boy thinking a woman's taking far too long over labour, going, oh, I can't stand all that panting. I know, we'll get a chainsaw, we'll just cut that baby out. That's what it is.
You know, you're absolutely right. It was in 1783.
That's no excuse.
It was two Scots doctors called John Aitken and James Jaffrey, and it was called a symphysiotomy, and it was a procedure to widen the pelvis if the baby's head was too large to pass through.
Oh, can you hear the high tone of all those sighs?
What I like about this picture...
It's a bit eye-watering.
It's a ladies' ward, so, of course, there is some baking going on
Yes.
on the left. Cake display cakes.
And I tell you
Hot buns in the oven, Stephen. You see what I did?
Buns in the oven.
They didn't really, darling.
I'm afraid they did. When I say chainsaw, it was literally a chain. It was like a watch chain, in fact. Right. It was like an
It
up
wasn't
and
a full
down.
lumberjack giving it... It's a boy!
They hadn't yet invented the internal combustion engine.
And caesarean sections.
Caesarean sections have replaced the same idea. That yes, quite, exactly. It's a bit of a
To do
relief.
the caesarean section, I think. Sawing the pelvic bone in half is not as easy as maybe just a small incision. And...
But is there
I
not
know,
like-
you'd have thought they would have
Pop
made
it
out
out the sunroof.
But this was before antiseptic. It was before antiseptic surgery, and of course it was before any kind of anaesthetic.
They're not a meeting. You know what I mean? There's not a meeting where someone goes, I've got it. And they go, what? They go,
chainsaw, innit?
Well, they looked at a watch chain and they said, you know, if we could sort of ease away the bone like that, rather than using a saw. I know, everyone's wincing.
Have we got another question that isn't about that?
Would it heal? Presumably not very well.
Well, they then went on to use the same thing. For example, if someone had a bit of diseased bone, they would do the same thing. They would sort of tick it in, then they'd go up and down like that, and then they'd do it lower down, and the two bits would fuse together and have a stiff arm. But it would get rid of the diseased bone. It was called an osteotome. It eventually became like a chainsaw. You can see one here.
My
That
God.
is more like a chainsaw.
You don't
Pretty
want
unpleasant.
That, you don't want that coming at you.
You really don't. You really, really don't.
I remember my wife had a baby, I remember it well.
Oh,
And, yeah, it was a grand day.
forget.
It was a grand day. But when she had a baby, and there's a point where you go in to see the fella who's going to sort it out on the day.
Obstetrician?
That's
Yes.
him, yeah.
Yep.
He's got an official title. And you go in to see him, and as the husband, he says, right, you sit there on a chair, and then he pulls the curtain across.
Yes.
While him and your wife are in this thing, while he has a little dabble or
That's
whatever he's
a bit
doing.
intimate, isn't it?
It's a bit like you go, I've seen it, mate. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing... This is why we're here.
Well, you don't look when that happens, though, do you, at the moment of conception? Do you actually have a look? You're looking into...
Surely.
Sorry.
Stephen doesn't need to know, Jason. He doesn't need to know.
You're gazing lovingly into her eyes.
Gazing lovingly at the Bourne Identity, which is still on the television. As you reach for your drink.
What do you think, darling, that he's got a periscope at the moment?
I'm sorry.
I don't know why you and I are having this conversation.
After the invention of the internal combustion engine, where we were getting Jeremy to his home territory now, eventually by 1920 they were small enough to be able to have a hand-powered
Cut down trees.
And then they cut down trees,
Yes.
exactly. Well, anyway, there you are. Chainsaws were originally invented for midwives.
Alan, don't you not want some points or not? Charles is
Well, that's
writing it
very
down.
difficult to say yes or
What do you reckon?
There's three negatives.
Yes. Don't you not want some points or not? Do you not want some...
Do you not want some points?
Or not?
Do you not?
Do you not?
Well, we also don't know whether he does or not.
Yes.
Don't you not want some
Points or not?
Or not?
Do not want points.
So here's the thing.
It's true to say that I do not want points.
Yes.
Or
So
not.
would mean that you do.
You'd say, do you want points or not?
No, yes, but
So the answer is... Well, there's two questions.
No, it's just one question with one answer, but I just tell you now, one answer has a klaxon and one doesn't. There. I think I'm giving too much away here.
Can we help
The show's nearly over. I'm filibustering.
Just,
You asked the question in English.
I did, yes.
English, there are 500,000 words in the Oxford English Dictionary. It is the largest language in the world.
Yes.
1,000 times no.
Oh, yes. Have you thought of that today?
Yes.
Yes is the right answer. Yes.
Yes isn't the right answer.
Oh.
It's not a yes-no question.
No, that's what I thought.
Well, but fundamentally, yes is better than no, is where we were heading. Although I was enjoying Giles's...
But curiously, the answer would have been different.
I didn't mean I'd come back to it.
No.
Wasn't enjoying it that much.
But interestingly, the answer in French would have been yes. Oh, no, no.
In French, you could have said, I don't know, which is je ne sais pas, which is a double negative. Or...
But if you translate, what did you originally say?
Is it too early to lose the will to live?
I'm extremely concerned, Sandy, that you, a role model for women everywhere, should, in fleshing out the double negative, come out with a statement broadly, yes is better than no. That's not what I'll be telling my daughter.
There's a lot of these in pop, aren't there? A lot of these in pop and rock lyrics.
Yes.
There's lots of I can't get no satisfaction.
Yes, there is. And if it's a positive double negative, like Tom Jones's "It's not unusual," that's fine, OK? Because basically...
Why is that fine?
Well, it never used to be a problem, the double negative. And then in the 18th century, they became obsessed with mathematics, and it's to do with mathematics.
Oh.
So they began to codify the language as being illogical if it didn't fit with mathematical thinking. So in mathematics, minus a minus is a plus.
Oh, do this in Danish.
Okay. Yeah. Så de tænkte mange år siden, at... I can do it. No, I won't do it now.
If you do that, I think I've had a stroke.
No.
I was just thinking there's a body being found as soon as I...
You can almost feel the wind on the bridge. And there are lots of words called orphaned negatives. So these are words that have the opposites, but nobody uses them. They're now obsolete. So what would be the opposite of ineffable?
Effable.
Effable, but nobody ever uses as a perfectly good word, isn't
I've
it?
heard people say that.
Effable's not effable?
Oh, he's got nice trousers on today. He's totally effable.
Yeah, well, funny, and thank you. I really appreciate it. They're very roomy.
No, there are lots of good ones. Incessant. So cessant. Nobody talks about cessant anymore. Well, this is the weird thing about this word, OK? What it tells you in the dictionary is that cessant hasn't been used since 1701. What happened that year? They thought, you know, I'm done with that word.
For you, what about disdain?
Oh, yes,
Because
the opposite
you're...
of being a good Dane. Yes,
Yeah.
a disdain.
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 Yeah. Innocent? Anybody?
Yesn't.
Innocent. So innocent, yeah, innocent was a criminal.
Innocent.
Until about the 17th century, so nocentum, Latin meaning to harm.
Is nonchalant?
So chalant.
Chalant.
Yes. I'm going to refer to you as chalant. I like that. I think that sounds rather good.
What, chalant?
Yeah, chalant and effable.
Stopping you.
To be fair, Jimmy, I had to have it pointed out to me. Inflammable?
Oh, I hate... Inflammable and flammable.
Same thing. It is exactly the same thing. It's not an orphan negative at all. In fact, the opposite of flammable is non-flammable.
Explosive.
I beg your pardon?
Just reading.
Oh, explosive. It used to be inflammable because it comes from the Latin inflammare, but they adopted flammable deliberately in the 20th century because, honestly, inflammable seemed ambiguous. So that is one of the reasons why we now say flammable and then non-flammable.
Right.
Anybody know what a contronym is?
Oh, so it's like got synonym?
Yeah.
Antonym.
Antonyms, yes. So it's a word that is also its own opposite. So screen, which means to show, like screen a film, and screen also means to hide. Another example, bound. So fastened to the spot and also heading somewhere.
Oh, that's good.
They're good, aren't they? Consonants. They're really...
Yes.
So you like this? Fast, so moving quickly, and stuck and unable to move. It's the...
And also, I always thought with fast food, the fast is not to eat, and then also to eat loads really cheaply.
Yeah, there you go.
Condoms, I think we may need marijuana for this.
Yeah.
It seems to me like there should be a conversation that happens at like, yeah, man, fast.
Yeah.
But no, man, fast food.
I love that your impression of someone on drugs means you've never taken them.
Antigrams. Anybody know what an antigram is?
It is the opposite of a gram.
So these are words where if you do an anagram, the anagram itself has the opposite meaning to the original word. So
impossible.
Yeah. Dormitories, tidier rooms is one. There's one. Customers, I like this one. The anagram is store scum.
Oh, there's a few people out there working retail.
Here's another one, an antigram. A volunteer fireman. I never run to a flame. And 45 is an anagram of over 50. It's just a woman lying, basically.
When did slavery become a criminal offence in England?
I bet it was one of these odd little new labour laws in about 1996, 7, 8.
What an odd law to outlaw slavery. Is political correctness gone mad?
bit odd in the sense that it's a bit late.
Yes, that's exactly right. It was 1807 when the slave
1807
trade was ended, and then finally in 1834 it was illegal anywhere in the British Empire to own a slave. It has never been illegal to have a slave in England until April 2010. I'm saying I could have had you as a slave legally.
You mean this series I'm finally free?
Yes!
But you know what? I'm one of those slaves who just goes back to the master. I don't know what to do. I work for you anyway, please.
I'll tell you one thing is that there are now estimated to be 27 million people held in, essentially in bondage, in slavery on this planet.
But the show will be over soon.
More,
You can go.
Yeah. Right now? More than there ever were in the days of cotton picking and so on.
27 million?
27 million.
In the world?
Yeah, that is the estimate. It's pretty grim problem still, slavery. The point is, it was never illegal in England because it was never recognised as a state of being.
I wish I'd known that.
There were laws against kidnapping and abduction and false imprisonment and sexual trafficking and all the other things that we might associate with slavery. But it was not illegal for one human to own another human, which it now is.
So this is a law this isn't one of those laws where they thought, oh, that needs clearing up. It's a loose end from history.
It kind of was. In 1967, there were a number of obsolete crimes that were taken care of. Barratry had been illegal right up to 1967, which is vexatious lawsuits.
Oh,
okay.
Building of
vexatious.
Yeah, what they call a vexatious litigant, somebody who just keeps...
Dorothy Squires.
Yes.
Dorothy Squires, the singer Dorothy Squires, towards the end of her life, when she did have a mania, but she was probably the last person to be done for vexatious litigants.
And if you kept prosecuting someone for it, you'd be prosecuting them.
Yourself?
Yeah, well, it's completely... Anyway, there's scolding. Scolding was a crime in 1966, but not in 1967.
With hot water, you mean?
No, not scalding. Scalding. Scalding!
That was a crime.
You! What time of the night do you call this, Eddie Izzard?
12.
Yes.
12:30.
Well, I'll give you a good scolding.
And that was illegal?
That was illegal.
Illegal?
Yeah.
And that was legal?
Eavesdropping was illegal. Challenging someone to a fight was also illegal until 1967.
What about going round and round and roundabout more than 3 times?
It certainly wouldn't be a medieval law, would it?
Well, I don't know. And if you're in a horse and cart, you have a couple of hours spare.
On a medieval roundabout.
On a medieval roundabout.
Yes. Anyway, there you are. Due to a quirk of English law, it only became a criminal offence to keep a slave in the year 2010. So you just missed your chance. When the Titanic sank, what was the first thing that happened to the crew?
Terrible luck for them, but they actually had their 6-month review. And...
They drowned.
Did you say they drowned?
I said they drowned.
Oh, dear, no.
No, I was going to say they were fired.
Every single member of the crew had their wages stopped at the moment of the sinking. They stopped paying them. The moment a ship sinks, it is no longer a ship, therefore you can't work on it, therefore the White Star Line paid them up to the minute of the sinking and not the end.
I would imagine that in a sinking situation, you'd hope to be getting time and a half.
This is it. Frankly, double bubble.
Just a little something at the back end.
Yeah. As soon as you're in the water, you've got to be looking for work.
Get on your pedalo and look for work. But apparently at the time, White Star were considered one of the more generous employers. I think it was £5 a month, not very much. Do you know about the Duff Gordon family on the Titanic?
And their terrible gin.
Very good. No, they offered the crew of lifeboat number 1 £5 to save their lives. Nobody's quite sure whether this was just greed, saying, I'll give you £5 if you save my life, or whether it was a thank you because their lives were saved. But whatever the result, the crew themselves were in terrible trouble for accepting a bribe. And one poor lad, Albert Horswell, survived. He was one of the lifeboat crew, got home, went to see his mother, who slammed the door in his face and never spoke to him again because she was ashamed that he had taken a bribe.
Yeah, she was also bonkers, though.
Yeah.
Like Mrs. Horswell.
Is it true someone dressed as a lady?
Supposedly someone did because it was women and children first.
I thought you said somebody dressed as a baby.
Lady.
Yes,
Goo-goo, indeed. I have a lollipop, and I have no control of my bowels or urination. I am indeed an infant, and I know you think I'm Lord Albemarle, but actually I am a little baby with a beard. Yeah. Goo-goo. And, madam, might I tell you I've been a very naughty baby?
So along that path, the ones who were paid £5 were only the able seamen. How can you tell able from ordinary seamen? When you applied for a job as seaman on the merchantry, you either registered as an able seaman or an ordinary seaman, and they accepted your word. But you kept a log of your work, which was the real proof of it, and it was called a certificate of continuous discharge.
Describe the rules on a pirate ship.
Rules?
Yeah. What sort of rules would they have?
Obviously, they've got a captain.
Yes.
So he's in charge. So I imagine he gets most of the gold and whatever they find.
Well, oddly enough, now, they had two senior officers, the captain and the quartermaster. And the captain could be vetoed by the quartermaster on all matters except battle, except rules of engagement when fighting. And they had strong laws. And the quartermaster was, he was about how much they divvied out, including he decided how much the captain got. The captain had no special quarters. He didn't have a, wonderful room such as you imagine in movies. So it's not exactly hierarchical. It's kind of a rule of two, the quartermaster and the captain. Otherwise, it was more or less a democracy in a strange sort of way, but with strict rules. For example, in Captain Bartholomew Roberts' ship, the Fortune, there was no gambling. It was like a boarding school. No smuggling girls into the dorm. No playing music on a Sunday. And lights out at 8 o'clock sharp in the evening.
It's rubbish being a pirate.
I know. It's not quite what you imagine.
My dad, the captain. That's rubbish.
Where are you going to smuggle these girls from, anyway?
That's true.
If you rescue one from the sea, no.
When it came to women aboard, the articles of Captain George Lowther, who was a famous pirate of his day, said, if at any time you meet with a prudent woman, that man that offers to meddle with her, without her consent, shall suffer present death. So meddling with a prudent woman without her consent got you death. So they really were very strict with each other.
So meddling was rape, really?
I think essentially we're talking about rape.
That lost its meaning by the time Scooby-Doo came on.
Exactly. Why, you pesky kids haven't meddled?
Notorious gang rapists.
That's just terrible. I'm ashamed of you.
Why is the pirate voice similar to the farmer's voice? Why is there something? Arr! Get off my land! There's
one man responsible. Do you know who it is?
It'll be a film actor.
Yes.
Oh, OK.
In Treasure Island?
He played in a great performance of Treasure Island. And in fact, Tony Hancock, the great comedian, he first started out as an impersonator of this actor.
Lawton?
No, not quite as well known as Lawton. In his own day, he was very, very well known, but now less well known.
Anybody?
Someone we've mentioned on QI before.
Hang on a minute.
The chances of Alan remembering it are...
Someone in the front row saying, you've done this! This was on Dave on Tuesday. New facts.
Yeah, well, it was Robert Newton, anyway.
Robert Newton.
Thank you, yes.
Robert Newton.
Robert Newton is the right answer, but it doesn't count because we've had it before. There we are.
Prowse almost did that, didn't he, to Darth Vader? He has a West Country accent, didn't he?
Yes,
and he famously thought that he was going to be used, didn't he?
Yes.
With his West Country accent, he got redone. I am your father. Jones. Very upset.
I'm your father, and I'm your brother as well.
See, Darth Vader on a big tractor. Yeah. Trundling down the corridors of the Death Star, chewing a bit of straw. Darth. Mr. Darth to you.
Mr. Darth. It's, yeah, anyway.
You know the skull and crossbone flag?
Yes.
Do they really have that? Because, I mean, that's really giving it away,
we
isn't
definitely
it?
covered that in the last
Oh,
series.
really? I must have missed that.
Alan will tell you all about it.
Go on.
Jolly Roger.
Well, yeah, everyone knows it's called. Or is that a proposition? Maybe later, Alan.
It's been 10 years, Stephen, and I've finally come round to it.
All right.
It's time for a Jolly Roger.
Now, which popular game traditionally ends with all the players being thrown into a lake of fiery sulphur?
Well, I hope it's show jumping. I hate show jumping. Oh, God. I'd have one of those after every jump.
Before and after.
Yeah.
It's not show jumping, though. It would certainly liven it up.
It sounds biblical.
I don't think it's the humans, though, it's pieces. Wouldn't it be pieces?
Well, I'll tell you that it's a game that went dramatically out of fashion in 1972. Early 72, it was more popular than Monopoly. But by the end of 72, it had almost completely gone out of fashion because of a film.
Mousetrap. Mousetrap.
No, there is no film of
Because of a
Mousetrap.
film. Is it Drafts? Remember that film? Drafts.
The film show...
The truth about drafts.
No.
Drafts makes you go bored. Don't play drafts.
The film is not a game, there's a game in it. This game is played in it, and it's scary.
Oh, is it a séance?
Yeah, it is a séance using a Ouija board.
OK.
Right.
And what film has there a Ouija board?
The
Exorcist is the right answer. One of the truly great films of the 20th century.
Is a Ouija board really a game? I don't remember ever seeing Ouija board scenes in a film and at the end going, right, who won? Not dead.
Well, the odd thing about Ouija, it was a board, it still belongs to Parker Brothers.
It's out.
Yeah. Ouija is a proprietary name, it's a trademark.
Is it we-ya?
Interesting point. That is some people's theory of the name of it is, yes, two words for yes, we, the French, and ya, the German, but no one's quite sure about where the name came from, except that it's a game that was invented. The board was invented and it was sold and people played it. I mean, it's weird to say that, but they enjoyed the fact that it nearly always works in as much as, you know, people spell out words and they don't quite know how they're doing it. It's clearly not dead people.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was not originally supposed to be dead people. It was supposed to be that you contacted yourselves, a part of yourselves that automatically wrote. It was not about seances.
Dead people just joined in. All the games. This is good. This is the one for us.
Even when recently asked, only a third of the people who still use Ouija boards say they do it to contact dead people. And in the First World War, it was used to contact your troops abroad, supposedly.
So, hold on. Are some dead people trying to communicate with the living through Monopoly?
Yeah. There was a court case in the 90s, I'm sorry to say, in Britain, a murder case, quite an important one, and the jury had to be dismissed because in their hotel overnight, they used a Ouija board to try and contact the murdered person. And apparently the murdered person said, the guy in the dock is guilty, convict him. And said, the judge heard about it and dismissed the jury, quite rightly, you may say. But the awful thing was, if they'd done it in the jury room, the judge couldn't have dismissed them. Because the judge has no right in law to know what goes on in a jury room. The deliberations must be private.
Unless he's dead.
Ah, yeah, that's really complicated.
Was the guy guilty?
Unfortunately, he was retried and found guilty, which sort of is really irritating. So maybe the ghost of the murdered person did.
Where's the competitive element?
Suppose you just have a go.
Yeah.
Who are you trying to contact? Right, it's your turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you contact two dead people and then they box.
And then they tell you how it went.
Ghost boxing. Ghost boxing. On Sky Sports 2. Live ghost boxing from Auntie Vera's parlour.
That's it, people in sheets.
Yeah. The headless man, he's already down.
It's just going like that. It's kind of punchy.
Do you know there's an Elvis...
Yeah. There we go. Go on. Hit me. Hit me.
There's an Elvis seance website.
Of course there is. I bet there's more than one of those.
Yeah. Where you contact Elvis.
Online?
But it cautions, if you wish to repeat this experiment, please be considerate. Many people may wish to contact Elvis, and we're sure he's quite busy. Please treat this information...
For eternity.
Yes. Please treat this information the same as you would if he were alive and you had his email address, with respect. It's a terrifying thought, isn't it? A sort of posthumous Twitter and things like that. That would be hell, I have to say.
You just thought of that.
Yeah.
You're in it up to your neck.
Oh, God. Horrifying. But the reference in the Bible to the fiery lake or whatever is from Revelations, where it does say those who practice the magic arts will be cast into burning sulphur. So,
How about balloon animals?
ooh, the punishment for people who do balloon animals is not specified in Revelation.
Giraffe.
I think it's loneliness, the punishment for them.
Yeah.
I think it's long nights, sitting alone.
So, yeah, in my youth, games which conjured up the spirits of the dead were a popular gift for children. It's a weird thought. If they didn't like it, they could go to hell. Who built Britain's railways?
Look out! Look out! There's... Oh, Jesus!
I say. By the way, I have my own train here. Look at that. There. Isn't that fun? And I have sweets which I can load on and deliver to any particularly interesting answers this evening. So there's an extra incentive. However,
this is turning into my perfect house. More toast, please.
Wallace and Gromit. But you have first to address the question of who built our railways. Richard Branson.
Oh, no. It's not elephants. Large creatures were trained to trample down areas of Britain to be very, very flat. The railway mouse.
Well, you're right, actually.
Oh.
That because... Well...
Sweet!
That's a sweet. That's a sweet.
You're right, actually, comma, in saying... in
saying words. Big comma.
In saying that railways had to be flat in the days when they were built in Britain, which were the very earliest days because we were the country that invented the steam locomotive and the railway system. And they weren't powerful enough engines to go up hills or to go even really round bends, so they had to be straight and they had to be flat.
Were they built by the wrong type of builder?
Well, at the time, they were thought they were the much-mocked navvy. They were called navvies. They were mostly Irish.
Yes,
and they were an extraordinary example of man muscle. They really were. It took a year to train a navvy.
Whoa,
you fed them on meat and beer. No Dagenham smiles there, very tightly done trousers. And they...
A Dagenham smile?
The Birmingham to London track took 5 years to build and was the equivalent in work of building 1.5 Great Pyramids. It was an astonishing feat. Astonishing. These people were incredible. As I say, it took a year to train them. They lived on beer and meat, and they could outperform any other manual labourer. I mean, farm workers would be exhausted after a quarter of a day that the navvies could do.
I hear once that the Trans-Siberian Railway, which was meant to be a straight line, the Tsar got a ruler and he said, I want the railway perfectly straight, like this. And he got the ruler and he drew a line like that, but his fingers were over the edge. And in a couple of places, it did a big sort of detour like that. He went, build me that, go away, you, like that. And they went, oh, we better build it like you said. So they had to build two very big curves, eh?
That's a lovely thought again.
That's a lovely thought.
I'd always assumed that the first railways that was...
All very well. Hey! We've got a sweet.
Whoa! Let's get someone on the scene and go straight there now to see what's happening. It's absolute pandemonium, Stephen.
Oh, you had your sweet yet?
I haven't had it yet.
Oh, I'm not very good at being a back controller.
In the right place. Can't be a virgin training.
Hey. Why, for a sweet and a point, why are they called navvies?
Navigational engineers.
Oh, very good, very good. I'm so impressed.
Is that right?
They were responsible for digging what were called the internal navigation system, which was the canals. That's how they first came over, for digging canals. And then when the railway arrived, they did all the embankments and the tunnels and the extraordinary earth movement involved. There were horses were used for taking away the spoil, but everything else was human muscle.
Elephants as well, did you realise?
No elephants were used in the making of that railway line.
There were, just little ones. So London to Birmingham, or Birmingham to London, was the equivalent of what, 1.5 pyramids?
1.5 Great Pyramids, supposedly.
If only we'd put that to a vote, we would have had 1.5 pyramids. I didn't mean just a half a pyramid, yeah.
You
just thought we'd leave it. We have the top half of the pyramid.
Well, that's a pyramid.
Still,
That's a pyramid, the top half, isn't it? It's only if the bottom half.
That's what I would choose.
It's an odd platform. So just keep slicing the pyramids.
Go and have a sleep. There you are.
Gentlemen.
Oh no! Thank you very much.
Curses.
Now, Alan, why will you never eat my noodles?
It was bound to happen that this show would just become about you two.
Just haven't agreed on a fee, haven't we?
Remember, we're involving people from countries beginning with K.
Kenya.
Well, which have a particular association, perhaps, with noodles.
Kent.
Kent. Famous for the Kentish pasta. No, go east. Korea. Thank you, Josh. In Korea, noodles, of course, are very popular.
Of course.
And when will I eat your noodles means when are you getting married? In other words, when are you going to be throwing a party in which you will serve noodles? So it's just a Korean phrase. It's like saying, when are you going to tie the knot? When am I going to eat your noodles? Well, you're already married, so I'm not going to eat your noodles, and you didn't invite me.
I did invite you.
Oh, you did? No, I could. That's right. He's abroad.
Yeah, you know what you were doing? You were filming an episode of Bones.
Yeah, yes, I
was. I've been so insulted in my life.
I'm so sorry. Oh, God, how embarrassing. I'm so sorry. Anyway, that's what it means. Here are some other Korean phrases, though. The other man's rice cake always looks bigger. What would be the British equivalent of that?
Oh, the grass is always greener.
Or as my uncle used to say, the other man's arse is always cleaner. If there are too many ferrymen on a boat, it will sail up a mountain.
Is that just literal?
Probably, but maybe.
If they say that in North Korea, the boat is going up the mountain.
That's true. There is
Too many cooks spoil the broth.
Too many cooks spoil the broth.
So, Stephen, tell me about your childhood.
OK, here's one. He worked as if he were tending the grave of his wife's uncle.
That's brilliant.
What would that mean?
I might start using that.
Not much.
Yes is the answer, because in Korea, it is your duty to tend the graves of your family. But the more distant the family, the less attention you give the grave. So all he was doing was just basically sprinkling a little bit of water on the... It's only his wife's uncle. Whereas his grandfather, his father, or his mother, he'd be putting flowers and being with great attention. So that's what that means.
Shagging the dog.
Not really. Not really, Catherine. Is there something you want to share with us? Like shagging the dog?
Yeah, like if you don't work very hard, you're just shagging the dog.
Not in this country, madam. In this country, when we shag a dog, we know what we're doing. And it's pretty hard work.
Not as easy as it looks, I tell you that.
So in Canada, you have the phrase shagging the dog.
Yeah. Or like shagging the sheep if you want, or whatever.
That's not fine. Again, perfectly common practice over here, but not considered a light or unburdensome task.
It just means like having an easy day.
There's a lot I have to learn about Canada.
It's easy because with like a lady, you have to take her out to dinner or woo her a bit. But with the dog, it's just like, here, boy, come on.
You say that. You say that.
Yeah, once he's here, most of the work is still to be done in that situation.
Yes. I'm thinking, let's move on. So, showing off your wrinkles to a silkworm?
You have found a silkworm in your underpants.
Silkworms are pretty wrinkly. So if you show your wrinkles to a silkworm, he's going to go, nah, I can do better than that. So it's like teaching your grandmother to suck eggs.
Oh,
that's
imagine how wrinkly a silkworm's knackers are.
And finally, he disappeared like a fart through hemp pyjamas.
I think that one speaks for itself.
It's a Korean phrase. Awkwardly, basically. Embarrassingly, awkwardly,
not with maximum grace. Why are so many great men short?
Are they really?
David, you've hit the nail on the head. Rem acu tetigisti, as they would say in Latin.
I'm sure they would.
Yeah.
It means nice one, son.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. In fact, Napoleon,
Napoleon was short, wasn't he?
No, he was above average height.
Everyone was short in those
Wasn't
days.
he? Well, yeah. He was 5'6", which was taller than
He was
it is
5'7",
now.
actually.
Right.
Average height was about 5'6"-ish.
So it's just the British who decided he was short. Put him down a bit.
Yes, it was particularly a cartoonist called Gilray. When we were at war with Napoleon, there was a famous one of George III with a little Napoleon based on Gulliver's Travels, like that. And he's actually saying, I cannot but conclude you to be one of the most pernicious little odious reptiles that nature ever suffered to crawl upon the surface of the earth. There.
It's a snappy.
It's a snappy one. He was 3 inches taller than Nelson, for example. Nelson was 3 inches shorter than Napoleon. It's certainly true that...
Nelson was 5'4"?
Yeah.
Like Danny DeVito?
He was a short chap.
No wonder they put him on such a big
So
column.
is that kind of...
Yes, he's tall in Trafalgar Square.
Is that short man syndrome a kind of retrospective thing, then, that we've kind of invented more recently and then just gone back and said they're all short?
Yeah. Some of them were short, though, there's no question. I mean, Stalin was surprisingly short. He was only 5'5". Mussolini was 5'6". Franco was 5'4".
5'4"?
Yeah.
They are all short, Steve.
Well, no. He hit the 5'8". Idi Amin was 6'4".
Yeah, big
That's
fella.
my height. Fidel Castro, 6'1". Mao was 5'9", which is rather tall for a Chinese person. So...
But mostly they're not judged on their height, are they?
No, they're not. They're not. But all I'm...
We'll let that go.
Yeah. All I'm saying, you know, there seems to be historically no evidence that short people are more power-hungry, more tyrannical than people of average or tall stature.
Because you know what it came about, though, because it's just that one... It's probably the one thing that short people have got to cling on to. One day they might be a dictator. Well, and we've just taken that away from them.
All that
little hope.
All this not being able to reach things from shells, one day will be made up for when I kill millions of people. And I can stand on their bodies.
Yeah.
Reach the jam.
Everybody knows somebody short in their life who's been particularly angry and abused his position of authority, and then you decide he's a bit like Hitler.
That's the point. You notice when a short man has a tantrum
Yeah.
and says, oh, short man, Napoleon complex.
Tall man has a tantrum, you just leg it.
Exactly. I have to say I'm rather shocked by this. Heightism does exist. Short people are paid less on average than tall people. The disparity is comparable in magnitude to race and gender. A survey of Fortune 500 companies...
They should rise up.
Yeah. The chief executive officers of Fortune 500 companies, 90% are above average height, which is astounding, really. And 30% of those are over 6'2". You know, the tallest 4%.
Every now and again, a little short fella breaks through.
Yeah. Oh, stop.
Escapes, gets away.
Yeah, yeah. But it is rather shocking that there is this disparity. And, of course, we always notice the powerful, short, rich man with a young, tall wife is...
Billionaire Bernie
She's actually... I've seen her with him. She's actually much taller than that. Above him.
Yeah, she's bending her knee there.
Yeah. I mean, he has to jump up to slap her on the bum. He could run through her legs.
And who's the couple on the left?
That's Carla Bruni and...
Sarkozy.
But at least the women have both got handbags that their husbands can fit in, which
No, there isn't really any evidence that dictators are shorter than the rest of us, the Napoleon complex.
What's the maximum number of knights you can have on a chessboard, such that none of them can take another one?
Oh, multiples of 8, I suppose.
I'll give you... You can try it out.
So that none...
Maximum number. What you have to do is understand what a knight's move is.
Stephen, I don't understand the question.
It's the maximum... it's the maximum number of knights you would have on a chessboard, such that none can take the other. Have you noticed something in common with the ones you're putting down? They're all the same.
Same. OK, the same colour, so...
Yes, because a knight move must take a different colour. Ah.
So 32?
32 is the right answer! It's really very simple when you think about it, isn't it? It's one of those things that sounds incredibly complicated that you have to work out for ages, but there you are.
I still don't understand it at all.
None of these knights can take another knight.
But isn't that rather more knights than we used to?
Yes. It's a problem. It's not a real chess situation. It's if you
because they
had...
move, because the way they move, which is diagonal and up one, they move to the alternate colour.
Yes.
So if you've got all the knights in the same colour, they cannot take...
Exactly right.
Oh,
That's how, in the centre of the board, you're controlling 8 different squares there, but they're all a different colour. The knight's on a black square. So all you have to do is put them all on a black square or all on a white
When
square.
you move your knight, do you make a little horsey noise?
That's so sweet.
And when you move your rook...
That's bishop.
When you do your queen... Hello. That's your bishop. You're going to get in such trouble. You're going to get in trouble from both sides.
Oh, you are awful.
Yes. You're getting in trouble from both sides there,
Just
Richard.
say, if the Bishop of Peterborough is watching this evening, you'll have my resignation on your desk in a minute. Isn't there a version of chess for kind of chess heads called fairy chess, where the pieces do more things?
Oh, what
fairy chess pieces. I'm not making this up, I'm sure this is true. So there's a versions of chess where you can call these fairy pieces, and they can do extra things.
How many drugs did you take when you were hanging with the chess? So you could just go, you're playing chess, and suddenly you go, no, we're playing fairy chess now.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to touch the pieces.
The whole point of chess is its limitations.
Yes.
It's all
Precisely.
about the strictness. Which
You know, but hang on, Mrs. Poker player Victoria Coren Mitchell. Aren't there versions of poker where they kind of introduce wild cards and stuff to kind of get it? It's the same sort of thing.
And poker's different. As Martin Amis once said, in chess, the properties of a bishop are fixed. In poker, it's all wobbled through the prism of personality.
Well, you haven't obviously checked.
Beautiful quote. Beautiful quote. But do you know when he said that, Stephen? It was after a poker game that you and I and he
Yes,
all
I remember
played.
in Wales
Many
with the
years
then
ago.
unknown Ricky Gervais.
Ricky Gervais, who was
Made
knocked
rather-
out, got up, said, "What am I supposed to do now?" And you said, "There's a shotgun in the drawer."
Now, here's a killer question for you, Alan. We're both actors. Why are we so grotesquely overpaid?
Market forces. We're not in charge of the distribution of wealth.
Any excuse we can think of. Well, what profession within the film industry might think that they're responsible entirely for the way an actor conveys...
Screenwriters?
The screenwriter certainly has a lot, as far as the story is concerned, but they can't control, as it were, what an audience reads into an actor's eyes.
So the
Cameraman? The editor.
In a way, the editor, yeah. And in 1919, when cinema was being born, there was a filmmaker called Lev Kuleshov, and he proposed putting together a film in which you saw an actor looking at things, and you noticed that the audience read into the actor different emotions according to what they're looking at.
So it's the idea so that they're looking, you know, we think, oh, they're looking melancholy because they're looking at something.
Or they're looking hungry
Or they're
because
looking
they're looking...
hungry. Yeah,
exactly.
But the actor's actually not changed.
It's exactly the same shot as the actor.
Oh,
and this
that's
happens...
the trick of acting. All actors know that.
Yes, is not to act.
If in doubt, don't do anything at all.
And directors will tell you. Milos Forman famously shouts, "Stop acting! Somebody is acting here!"
There's a famous Bogart one, and at the end he looks down on some carnage, and everyone was very impressed by the emotions he portrayed. But the shot had been done much later, and the camera went down low, stood up on a balcony, and the director said, "Look bored."
Yes. And yeah, it works like that.
And they cut it in.
It's extraordinary how that is. It's the effect, it's the timing of the story, it's what the actor seems to be looking at, and it's the audience that does the work. They read the emotion into the face. Oh, that's... We've actually cut our own together. So you can see here, what's this emotion?
Confusion.
Oh, he's looking hard at something. Can you believe it's true? Oh, no. Arsenal have lost again. What a beautiful bike.
There you are.
Proof positive as if it were needed. Anyway, thanks to the
Kuleshov effect, good acting, maybe just good. In the Isle of Man, they had corporal punishment until 1976. And what type of wood did they administer it with?
Well, I know I'm going to get a buzz on this because it's normally called birching, but presumably it wasn't a birch.
It
doesn't matter because the
injustice is anyway.
So did it depend on how bad you'd been? So if you were really bad, it was holly, and they left the leaves on. But if you weren't so bad, it would be like sort of willow fronds, you know, or balsa wood for you. But
Hazel.
Hazel.
Yeah, the hazel. In Britain, birching, as it was known, was banned in 1948, but they didn't stop it until the 1970s in the Isle of Man, even though they tried to keep it by saying, all right, well, OK, what about if we let them keep their trousers on?
In America, there is still the tradition in some parts of birthday spanking. So,
Really?
yeah, where you go to school and then because it's your special day, and then there's a special treatment, the teacher takes the pedal out and then you get a few. And some people say, oh, we have to ban it, it's cruel. And then others say, no, we can't, it's a tradition.
Yes.
So they have to carry on trashing the kids. Yes.
Weird.
It's a bit like family Christmas. No one likes it still. Because it's a tradition, everyone has to go through it.
we get the idea of bringing a tree in to the...
That's your idea?
That's a German idea, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. Did we invent Christmas?
Well, a lot of elements of it. Obviously.
Now, I say, come on. Either we invented it or we didn't.
Yeah. It's like that terrible joke, which I'm sure you must have been told, about the couple who adopt a German baby. you know it, yes, don't you? You must know it.
Is there only one joke that involves a German baby?
It doesn't speak.
It doesn't speak
Another
at
one
all.
where he doesn't speak.
He never speaks.
Yeah.
They have him
Until he's about 5.
Yeah.
Five.
Want
And
me to
they
say
take
the
him to be
punchline?
tested.
Because they think, is he stupid? Is he deaf and dumb?
Everything functioning normally,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
And then one day...
One day.
Go on, Alan.
They give him...
Then he goes...
He has some
"Matza."
apple strudel.
Yeah.
And he says...
"Matza, this Apfelstrudel is a bit tepid.
And they say, Wolfgang, you've never spoken before. After all these years, now you finally speak. Why haven't you spoken before? And he says...
Up until now, everything had been satisfactory.
It's a great joke. Very
Do you know,
pleasing.
this is
like a relay joke.
This is the most fun a Danish person has had with a German since 1940.
Don't mention the war!
Well, there you are.
It's funny, the war. I mean, I have to chip in now. I mean, the war. The war is always World War II.
Yeah.
It's never any of the more current ones.
No, that's true.
It's always the war, and everyone in Britain takes personal credit for Britain winning it. Even people that weren't born at the time of World War II, they still take personal credit for Britain winning it. I've personally been a lot more annoyed by the Brits that are now in their 70s and they bang on about how they helped win the war. I mean, let's quickly do the maths. If you're in your 70s now, how old were you at the end of World War II?
That's true.
Maybe 10 years old? Yeah. How did you help win the war? When you were just 10 years old, you did not help win the war.
By not eating bananas.
Yeah. You were nothing but a drain on British resources.
You've got to admire his guts, haven't you?
Effectively, every 70-year-old Brit effectively fought on the side of Nazi Germany. Lost the war every little bit as much as we did.
King Eystein the Fart.
Is that meant to say Einstein, but he...
No,
it
is
got it wrong.
Einstein
the fart.
So he
farted once.
No, the fart is Norwegian. Speedy, fast, speedy, quick.
Oh, so it's just a typo. Really.
Lost a little. It's correct in Norwegian.
Lost a little bit in the translation.
He travelled a lot. And he was also the first source we have in writing of ice skating. He described his own ice legs. Exactly.
Yeah, ice
But he was succeeded by his son, whom you will like, who has one of the best names, I think, of any king, Halfdan the Mild.
Half a mile brings Dan, isn't that?
Yeah. Foreign policy was like, be fine.
Right, let's go to King Ragnar. Why was he called what he was called?
Hairy breeches. Oh,
Was he very hairy?
He wore hairy breeches.
Breeches?
Oh, did he really?
His wife made them out of animal hide, and they supposedly were there to protect him. But as you can see, he's here being killed. And how's he being killed?
By his own trousers. He didn't kill the animals before she made the clothes.
His Viking ship capsized off the coast of Northumbria, and he was thrown into a pit of poisonous snakes.
What, in Northumbria?
By the King of England, who was at the time King Ella.
Where did he find these poisonous snakes from then in
adders.
Northumbria?
Yeah, but that wouldn't have been
adders that would give you a bit of an itch.
It may be a made-up story, but Ragnar was eventually avenged by his son, who was called Ivar the Boneless.
That's a great name, what would be that?
He'd be called Ivar the Viagra these days.
And he got his revenge on King Ella. It's a pretty good superpower. Didn't one of the Fantastic Four have that?
In Valiant comic, there used to be Janus, who was an escapology.
A bottom with a J in front.
And he could, yes, that's right. And he could get through tiny gaps.
Oh. There you go.
Funnily
Janus.
enough, every week he seemed to be in a situation.
A Janal
where
situation.
It would be really helpful if he could get through a tiny gap. How the writers kept coming up with these scenarios where the only solution was for Janus to get through a tiny gap, but he was always going through drain grids and that sort of thing.
And avoiding the door that was open. Oh, no. That'd be too easy, wouldn't it?
Quite often he'd forgotten his keys.
That's King Raglan, the hairy breeches, being killed by King Ella, looking down on him in a pit. But he was avenged by having his ribs opened and his lungs spread out against his chest, which was known as...
Boneless did.
And it was called the... Say again?
What was it?
The Blood Eagle, yes. Very good. Audience, 10 points.
And was he... He wasn't that boneless if he had a rib cage, then?
No, he did it to his...
Oh, he
man
did
who
it to
killed his
someone
father.
else?
Yeah,
But presumably,
Yeah.
this person was... it was against his will.
Yes,
It wasn't just go, then... Hey!
I saw a documentary about heart surgery, and to get through the sternum, they used a power saw.
Oh, I know, it's
it's quite hard to get in there.
Yeah.
Or a little toffee hammer, and it takes a lot longer.
Yeah.
It's a very small power saw. I mean, it's not a great big
right,
wood.
it's
No, it's not a logging thing.
Oh,
It's a tiny, tiny...
But when you're over a certain age, they can't risk doing that to you anymore, and they actually go up through the thigh. Well, not the penis.
Got through the pit. Whoop, through the penis. Keyhole surgery.
Keyhole surgery. Very good.
Requires a steady hand, obviously.
Don't be absurd. They go up through the anus.
Oh,
dear.
So sorry, Stephen.
They got through a major...
Yeah, like your mate through the tiny cracks.
I was called
I've
James.
got a job for you, James. There you go. Oh, God, steady, chap.
Stephen, now, I've got a question about farts.
Oh, yes.
Do you think that farts smell before they come out?
I'm not going in to find out.
Quite a philosophical one from you.
If you went up someone, when Janus goes up...
Hold on.
You wouldn't have to hold your nose, is what I'm saying. He'd be free to use both hands.
If you have a colonoscopy... If you were to have a colonoscopy, you know, 24 hours before, you have to take these unbelievably powerful...
hallucinogenics. I'm being taken by a space octopus.
What tools do you need for do-nothing gardening?
No tools.
You think? It's also called natural gardening or natural farming. It's an Eastern version of our organic farming that has actually spread
around the world.
You sort of have to dig with your hands or persuade other animals to do the gardening for you.
Yes, persuade other animals.
So you sort of persuaded a fox who doesn't want a sort of den, but a rockery.
Well, in the case of paddy
get some
fields...
fish in and they desperately try and dig a pond before they die.
Well, fish is right. Well, in paddy fields, where, as I say, it started in the east, they use ducks instead of herbicide. They eat the weeds, the throttly things that kill the rice, and they use carp as well. That helps purify and keep the water in the paddy fields good. Now, I've got some props for you, which is more connected with the principle of the gentleman gardener, which was a familiar 18th and 19th century pastime, to be a gentleman gardener. You can have that or pass it on. There you are. And on your side, you've got props. Isn't it exciting to have props? Physical, actual props.
This one.
There you are.
I can see where we're going with this.
Yeah. So who's going to go first?
Well, everybody's been given fascinating devices, and I've been given a bottle with the top cut off.
That was designed by George Stephenson of the rocket fame. Was it? The first locomotive, yeah.
And it's to do with the garden?
It is to do with the garden. He was a very keen gardener.
What did he make most money out of? That or the...
the
train?
I think the train was a bigger hit.
Right.
But he was a very keen gentleman gardener.
I bet he was really tedious and wouldn't talk about the train in interviews and would insist on talking about his bloody...
I feel you're
In many ways, it's the work I'm proudest of. Yeah, but it's crap. It's just a bit of glass with no top.
It would protect some you've got sunlight, I think, is an important factor here, the sunlight, because you've got glass. And what does glass do? It can magnify, Stephen, can't it?
Yes, it can.
Refraction with it, can't we?
Yeah,
okay.
or refraction.
Refraction, whatever. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's not get bogged down in that.
Yeah, quite.
We're here to talk about gardening.
No, I'm silly, I'm silly.
Hello.
No, not... You found out... No.
It's a saw.
It is. It's for a gentleman gardener.
It's got a concealed serrated blade. You won't get this through customs. I can hijack a plane with one of these. I can't make it work, though. Why won't it go forward? It'll only go that way.
Well, that's how you start the stroke.
How you start sawing.
It won't go back again.
Have you ever used a saw?
I don't think it's designed for exercise books.
No, there is that too. David has a point. It's for the gentleman No!
I want to saw something now.
These belong... I just want to say... These have been lent to us by the Garden Museum.
It works, it works.
Oh, it really does! Oh, my God!
I'll tell you what, I really wish they hadn't made this set out of asbestos.
Brilliant.
That's a very good invention.
It's for the gentleman who's walking along and he sees an overhanging limb of a tree or overhanging limb of a person, for that matter, and decides to... Oh, no! What have I done? No! That's... Oh.
It's only plastic.
Yeah. And see if you can tidy it away, class. See if you can do that. It's my clever psychology.
Clever, isn't it?
Let's see if you're clever enough to hide that saw. Brilliant.
Well, that was great fun. You got any more?
No, well, David, you've got yours.
Well, yes, I don't know. I mean, it's like...
Yours actually is missing a piece. The Garden Museum, to whom we're very grateful for lending us these incredibly valuable artefacts, this would have had a sort of hat in order to make it like a walking stick, a sort of leathern thing around there.
Oh, so you could hold it like that?
You hold it as a walking stick, and then when you see some obtrusive weeds, you turn it around, and almost like a golf club, you...
Just a little hoe.
Yeah, you just hoe.
Yeah.
A little hoe.
Yeah.
Not in the street sense that's used in the United States of America.
Which is the sense I usually use that syllable in.
Yes, absolutely. So, talking of hoes, Rob.
It doesn't...
Oh, hello.
Sorry, there was a fly landed on my buzzer, and I tried to use my little hoe.
My little hoe.
Yeah.
It's a new sort of toy for children, isn't it? So what's your little hoe for?
Well, I've absolutely no idea, other than I think it's something to do with light.
Well, it's not bad. It actually forces a shape. What sort of shape would something in there have to be?
A bottle.
Oh, a vegetable.
It would have to be a straight vegetable, though, wouldn't it?
So
is it
for cucumbers?
For cucumbers, for growing straight cucumbers.
Points, and I've mended my walking stick.
Yes, points all round for Alan Davies. There you are.
Now that thing up there, Stephen, It may well be for cucumbers, but that picture there is very similar to a spam email that I get sent. And I have to say, I'll tell you now, don't waste your money, it doesn't work.
Dara, what have you got?
I am guessing that you put a mixture of seeds in of different sizes, because there are little holes of different sizes, and then if you're the kind of person who knows what size seed you need, then you just sprinkle it.
You're
In the most
exactly...
effete gardening way imaginable. There we go. And we're in the company of which actual gardens would be going, oh, well done, my lad, that's really top quality gardening you're doing there.
I'm rather exhausted now. I think I may have to go in and have a cocktail.
I had a bit of the vapours from my gardening.
So, do nothing gardening, where we started, it's small-scale organic farming with minimal... What's the French for innuendo?
Is it double entendre? No, I've just remembered that double entendre is French for big tits, isn't it?
No, double entendre means nothing to a Frenchman. You could say double entente. Entente is like a...
Two-man tent.
Or double sens, double sense, but they don't say double entendre.
So it's a French phrase that the French don't use. So it's not French.
Exactly. And that's precisely what this round of questions is about. There are other examples of that. Suppose you're at a performance, someone is very brilliant, and you want them to perform again.
Encore.
You'd shout encore. What would they shout in France?
More.
Good thought. But encore is a French word meaning more, but they don't shout encore when they want. They shout a Latin word, which means twice.
Anyone?
Anyone in the audience? Bis, bis, B-I-S.
Beef.
Beef, yeah, that's what they shout.
That's crap.
Try encore.
You need to do a show, wouldn't you? And at the end, everyone goes, beef! It's like that.
Well, there are other phrases which we use, which sound French, but again mean nothing to a Frenchman. Cause célèbre is not a French phrase. Like ensuite for a bathroom, the French wouldn't. They go, what?
Yeah. What about bidet?
Bidet they do indeed have, though it's easier really to do a handstand in the shower, to be honest. And if you want the expense of a bidet, yes.
Easier.
If you're as nimble as I am, yeah.
I'd pay good money to see that. I'd like to see you doing that with a camera going, tweet this.
The trouble is with the handstand in the shower, though. It's like, you know when you see a mountain stream and you think the water looks all right, but I don't know where it's been further on. When you're upside down and this water is pouring across your face, lodging in your nostrils, and you know that it's been...
Oh, that's a worry.
That's what puts... I had a friend who, he had read somewhere that if you slept upside down, it made you more intelligent because the blood went to your brain.
Yeah.
And I became obsessed with the idea that he would have a wet dream and die.
Oh, that's so, in so many ways, a horrific image. So, yes, there are words we use, décolletage, for example, we use for that. The French has used décolleté for that, not décolletage.
Excuse me, when you say we, you mean you?
Well, it's not a common phrase, but...
No, it's not. No, it's a look at the décolletage on that.
Could you put...
You never stop learning. I've already learned how to say to my teenage sons, look at the knockers on that, without the mum getting annoyed.
And now you can say décolletage.
Décolletage, look at
I
that.
thought it too. Also, ensuite, which is used commonly these days for a bathroom that's connected to a bedroom. In France, they don't use the phrase
And, of
ensuite.
course, the ensuite.
Exactly. The French do not.
Commonly used.
There's a Greek phrase. The Greeks say katatraia staeftika, I think it is. And it means who gives a shit.
No.
But literally it means there is trouble in the gypsy village.
It's true. And Depending on where up you are on the social calendar, it's right, isn't it? It's, you know, posh people wouldn't give a shit if they...
Anyway, that's the point. You can ask a Frenchman for a double entendre if you like, but you'll be lucky if he gives you one. Now to some... When is the present?
Oh, I'm not going to fall into that trap. Who's going to say it?
Well, it's not really a trap. It is a genuinely interesting question. I mean, there are different ways of trying to describe what the present might be, but let's talk about the present in terms of archaeology. Archaeologists actually have an acronym, BP, which means before present, and they can date the present. It's an exact date, January the 1st, 1950.
That's the present.
That, for archaeologists, and there's a very good reason for this, and you might be able to work it out. If you did, I'd be very impressed.
Is it plastics?
Not quite that.
Bakelite?
When archaeologists... No, archaeologists are interested in the distant past. And recently, in the last 100 or so years, certain techniques have enabled us to discover... I say us, I mean clever people.
Carbon dating.
Carbon dating has allowed us to discover how old things are. Now, in the 1950s... Basically, they decided by January the 1st, 1950, we had so screwed up the atmosphere with nuclear testing that no carbon dating could be trusted after January the 1st, 1950. So that is known as the present.
See, these archaeologists need to learn a bit of physics, though. According to Einstein's theory of space and time, which is our best theory of space and time, there's no such thing as a present moment which spans the universe, or indeed even the Earth, or in fact even two people moving relative to each other.
It is absurd to think of an event that might be happening now in a galaxy and me doing this as being simultaneous. That has no meaning cosmically, does it?
Because you can swap the order of them as long as they're not causally connected. I mean, we don't know how time works at a very fundamental level, actually.
But time's arrow. I mean, I actually got my head around that a bit.
Yeah.
Because you don't need maths. If you think that everything's going forward and as it does, it decays.
Yes.
So then you understand entropy.
Yes.
I just look, for instance, all you need is an analogy to make that's pertinent to you. So in my case, all relationships. And then you realise, of course, you have that perfect 18 months, and then they're dead.
The second law of sexual dynamics.
Yes, that's how I, according to me, that's how I extrapolate.
To make it statistically significant, though, you have to have an awful lot of relationships.
Oh, I do. And they really do all suffer the law of entropy.
How can you win money from a casino?
Magnets.
Counting cards.
Prostitution.
Card counting, that's right.
And they can spot that you're doing it. They have people that watch and know that you're doing it.
They do know.
And it was a chap who wrote a book, Ben something... No.
Nevis.
Awfully good. I interviewed the dude.
Oh, you interviewed him?
He's a maths teacher at college and he gets some students.
Was it MIT students, wasn't it?
Yeah. And they went as an experiment, kind of. And he's been banned from casinos.
It's not against the law, and you're not cheating. Actually, what you're doing is playing the game extremely well. Now what happens is that they have this amazing face recognition technology that all the casinos in the world buy into. If you went into a casino in Phoenix, say, and did some card counting, and they said, excuse me, sir, can you leave? They can't really take your winnings away from you. They just make you leave, unless they're criminals. They'll try and beat you up if they really dislike you. And you were to go into one in Macau, flew over the next day, they'd spot you as you came in. Their computers would pick you up. The face recognition say he's a card counter, because they would have been...
they haven't got enough advantages.
I know, but that's the thing. They're just there to make money.
And how do they spot that you're card counting unless you sit there and go, a 7, 5, a jack, bust. And if you did do that, I wager they'll go, excuse me, sir, could you... I got a picture one! I got a picture one! Well, that's maybe the way you disguise it.
Yeah. Well, of course, what they do is they do it in teams, and they have very clever ways.
You're doing that. The guy at the other end's counting the cards. The perfect...
Well, you're right. That was the system that Ben Campbell, the guy you interviewed... Ben Campbell, remember him?
Yes.
Yes, that's it. That was his system. But oddly enough, they've tried to do it with roulette. How would you do it with roulette?
Count the spins.
You
stop it. Count the ball. Stop it. Stop time.
Ah.
And then you only can move. Everyone else is frozen in time.
Yeah.
And then you get the ball and put it exactly where you want.
Yeah.
And then go, everyone back in the room. You won.
Why not just help yourself to all the money in the place while you've stopped time?
Because when you eventually you'd have to stop time and bring them back in, and they'd know. They go, something's missing. If you won, they'd go, wow, you've done it again.
I know how you win.
And I'll feel my pants are on for exchange.
I know how you win.
Well, you would, wouldn't you? You'd take all the money and you'd fiddle with people.
So long!
You would!
What you've got to watch out is you've just got to watch. You don't play one of the tables where the croupier, once he spins it, goes like this with his hand.
Yes, yeah, that's it.
They just go, place your bets, and then he goes.
It seems that the only honest way to win money from a casino is by playing blackjack extremely well and counting, but if you do that, they'll probably kick you out. What happened to the fireman's pole?
He tiled the fireman's bathroom.
Very good. Very good.
I mean, how much time does it save to go down a pole? I mean, they've got to drive half the mile across the town anyway to get there. So
That's
half
true.
a second off the... Just walk down the stairs.
Why don't they have a slide, like in the park?
Oh, that would be fun.
They could have a swirly slide or even a water slide.
It'd be a good way of getting young firemen in, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Getting them trained. It was probably a health and safety thing, I would imagine.
Oh, God.
Was it really?
No, you see...
Safety gone mad. That's the new political correctness gone mad.
Yeah, there are a series of stories in the newspapers that, like, essentially just to make things up in order to get us all angry in the morning. They claimed that, you know, firemen's poles were being taken out because health and safety... And it's just...
It's the whole reason.
I mean, most new fire stations are built on one floor, so they don't arise. But in all ones where they exist, they're there. And if they build one with 2 floors, they get their poles.
But surely that's the main reason you become a fireman, isn't it?
Yeah.
You go down the pole. It's not like I want to be a fireman so that I might die in a fire. It's I want to go down the pole and maybe one night I'll bring a special friend back and show her the pole and...
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You demand an extra floor on the fire station. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. So
No, do you know where the longest pole is in Europe, fireman's pole? And how long would you think it might be? What's the maximum length?
48 feet, I would guess.
64
no,
feet.
40 foot, actually. There's a 40-footer in Birmingham, and it's the biggest in Europe.
That's the limit, is it?
There may be a bigger one in America,
terrifying.
I believe.
That's really quite high.
It is quite high, 40 foot, yeah.
When you're really going to take the skin off your hands by the time you get off.
So you picture that squeaky noise, and it makes your teeth go on edge.
They talc up like the weightlifters.
They should do, shouldn't they?
Do they teach a technique of coming down the pole? Is it just hands? Because they
they're
all seem to be
gripping
doing...
I think the thighs
They
have
do a
to
knee
exert
grip.
pressure.
I must say, there are a hell of a lot of firefighters.
The driver of the fire engine is there going, no, I can't go yet, I've got to wait for the all here. Meanwhile, the whole family is burning to death.
Well, apparently it's because they sometimes literally are still pulling on their trousers, and then running downstairs doing that, of course, is much more dangerous than going down a pole where you can just sort of hold them up and go down the pole and put them on. Because you really are, and obviously every second can save a life.
I don't understand why the firemen are always completely caught out by the fact that...
Yeah, so what? A fire?
Oh, my God! Quick! All undressed.
Were the poles always made of shiny metal, or were there early versions that splintered and...
Nasty.
Well, they must have experimented with
flammable
materials.
pole, don't be absurd. They'll all be stuck up there with the pole on fire, no one to put it out.
it was insurance companies invented firemen.
You're absolutely right. I think you should get some points for that, Clive, because you're completely correct. Things like the Sun was one of the biggest, now the Royal Sun Alliance. That started as a fire insurance company. And what would happen was you'd pay the insurance to the company and they would send you a brass plaque which you would set into the wall of your house. So if there was a fire, what tended to happen was lots of different brigades came from different insurance companies and they read the plaque. And if you hadn't paid, they wouldn't put your fire out. Unless you happened to be next to someone else who had. Because, you know, if you got a fire, the chances are the fire would spread to them.
I think that's one of the worst things I can imagine is your house is on fire and they turn up and won't put it out.
I know. Can you imagine that?
That would make me annoyed.
Would they stay and kind of roast marshmallows, or would they just drive straight off?
They'd stand there with the hose going,
or sort of saying...
Stand there with water pouring out the other
Sort of
way.
saying,
since we're here, if you paid for the next time, we might as well collect now.
Think again with your premium.
It's not the fire that kills people. I don't know if you're aware of this.
Fire doesn't kill people?
No.
No.
Well, it
Okay.
does, Clive, of
Bullets.
course. You're not going to tie me up in legalese here. I'm not going to get all heated up, which is what you want to happen. I'm not going to stay very calm.
Yes. He didn't say fire doesn't kill people. He said it's not the fire that kills people.
Your lordship, your lordship is
thing.
absolutely right.
Thank you.
But I was just exploring with this. The notion that fire wasn't in some way not deadly.
It's not the fire that kills the people.
Generally
it's a byproduct of the fire. And I wonder if any of you know what that byproduct
Is it flame?
Is it the slinky?
is. It's not the slinky, Stephen, but it's a
wild
good try.
guess.
Clive, you were right. Smoke. It's the smoke. And what happens is, smoke doesn't burn you, so I know what you're thinking. Well, how on earth could... No. What smoke does, and this is where it gets interesting, it chokes you. And if we choke, what can't we do? Breathe.
We can't
We can't breathe. We can't breathe. And if we can't breathe, what do, Dom?
We die.
We die. Yes.
How many bullets are there in a gunslinger's revolver?
7. 5.
12 stone, 4 ounces.
6.
Well, 6, they're called 6 guns. And they have, as you noticed, 6
But there were
chambers.
6 in and 1 in the spout, isn't that?
No, it's not. It's quite the other way around.
5.
You're right, 5. Why 5?
Gravity.
Well, it's simply safety. Wyatt Earp, who one can be regarded as something as an expert, he said, I've often been asked why 5 shots without reloading were all the top-notch gunfighter ever fired with, 5, when his guns were chambered for 6. The answer is safety. The hammer rested on the empty chamber, so it could never discharge by mistake, because there was no safety catch on it there. And there, of course, the great Clint Eastwood. I did a thing in America once, and there was an armourer, who's the film guy who gives you the gun and everything and takes it away and keeps you safe and gives you blanks or whatever. And he told me a fact. He'd been doing it since the 30s. He'd been working on westerns. He said only 2 actors he ever worked with, and he worked with them all, didn't blink when they fired a gun. This is actually, oddly enough, a shot of Clint exactly proving he was one of them, because the gun's going off and his eyes are open, as much as they ever were. And he was one. He never blinked. John Wayne blinked, you know, Anthony Quinn, Gary Cooper. Who's the other?
Kenneth Williams.
You Carry On Cowboy. Yes, it goes wide open. The idea of those butch American armourers called Rusty and Randy, or whatever, having heard of Kenneth Williams. It was your own guy, Kenneth goddamn Williams. No,
bravest guy I ever
It's
knew.
actually Westworld is probably the Western most people would think of. Yul Brynner, yeah. Yul Brynner never blunk. So anyway, the answer is they have 5 bullets, not.
It's interesting because I guess technically the first bulletproof vests were created by the Zulus when they were fighting the British. Because Shaka discovered that if you dip your leather shield in water before you go into battle, then the pellets couldn't penetrate.
Is it really? Was that? It hardened the leather that much?
And that's how the Zulus could kill so many. Because what would happen is they only needed 1 bullet, and then they would advance so quickly that then they would kill 5 or 6 British people before they could reload.
Do you have Zulu blood in you?
I do. I guess yes, because I mean Xhosa people are of the Zulus.
Oh, do that
yes,
again.
I'm
I
half
love that.
Xhosa.
Oh, do it again.
So,
Oh, I
Xhosa,
love
Xhosa.
that.
I can't do that.
I love that.
It's given as an exclamation mark, isn't it?
No, that's the
click.
X. So there's the 3 clicks. There's the X, which is the, and then there's the Q, and then there's the C, which is. So those are the 3 different. So that's the.
You've seduced me.
Oh, thank you.
Not that you wanted to, I'm sure.
Who was that wonderful... Was it Miriam Makeba? Who's
Yes,
that?
the click song.
Yeah.
Igqirha lendlela ngoQoqothwane. Yeah,
Oh.
that's the song. Yeah, so the Xhosas were technically they were basically pacifists of the Zulus. They were they were chased out. They separated from the tribe, so they weren't as like the Zulus were really our proud. In terms of military, they are our pride and joy. They are
with the assegais.
Yeah, everything they did was revolutionary. Just like the first they were the first ones with the shortened spear. So Shaka invented a spear that was quicker to stab with and not as cumbersome to
Right, like
to
a sort of
lug around.
javelin,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Because the spear hadn't really been changed over all those years, and
So he
changed
adapted.
He changed everything. He was one of the best military.
Yeah.
You know, you guys. If it wasn't for the guns, you guys wouldn't be here.
I know, we wouldn't have.
Just do that bit of singing again.
With the?
Just do that bit of singing again.
Oh, that's the
See,
song.
you don't know me well, Trevor, but I'm on the turn, I'm telling you.
You've only got Jason and Alan left to seduce, Trevor, I have to say.
He's a cracking fella.
We're all... Very good. Now, this third round is about actors. After weeks of being pointedly ignored on tour by Sir John Gielgud, Clive Morton, the character actor, plucked up the courage to knock on his dressing room door. Gielgud opened it. "Thank God it's you," he said. "For one dreadful moment, I thought it was going to be that ghastly bore, Clive Morton." Now, why, Hugh? Yes? Why does the actor Edward Woodward have 4 Ds in his name?
No, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm sorry, it was a spasm.
You can't do that.
I'll put it out. Just carry on.
Did you know? This
Forget
is
I'm
quite
here.
interesting.
Yes, good. That's what we're here for.
Did you know?
Very good.
Kiwi fruit uses more than its own weight in aviation fuel to get from New Zealand to Europe.
Very good. 5 points. Wonderful. Another 5 points. It sounds mad, but is it, of course, true, absolutely.
And regarding the Edward Woodward...
Yes?
That's how you spell
Oh,
it.
no, Hugh,
No.
No, really, that's fine. I was going to say exactly that it's got that many D's in it because that's his name. If you took the D's out, it would be a different name.
And what name would it be? Exactly, it'd be Iwa Woo Woo. It's a sort of structural device, like a joist, which stops his name collapsing into the sort of spongy mass of Iwa Woo Woo.
You're mentioning Edward Woodward, and before that we mentioned John Gielgud. John Gielgud, when he first heard the name Edward Woodward, said, "This is an interesting name. It sounds like a fart in the bath."
It does. Very good.
What is the most mysterious thing you do in bed?
You regrow, you regenerate your body parts, don't you?
OK,
At night. That's what I call it, anyway. What are you doing in there? I'm regenerating!
Do you mean that there are bits that are broken? You mend them, is that what you mean?
Don't you grow a new liver every 7 years or something? There's no bit of you that is actually the age that you are.
No, I think it's every 10 years you're a totally new
You're
person.
totally new, bones,
Yes,
everything.
No, you don't grow gums back. Gums recede and they don't come back. You can't go, "Oh, I think I'm going to grow my gums long this year."
It's probably quite good that the gums don't keep growing and growing and growing. Imagine having to get them trimmed. That's going to be an extremely bloody...
What do you do for a living? I'm a gum dresser.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to get head to toe in plastic. It's like CSI. When someone comes in for a long overdue gum trimming.
You have to show them the back of their gums.
Yeah. So the most thing that we do in bed, all of us...
Dreaming.
Breathing.
It's sleeping. We have no idea.
Sleeping.
It is the most mysterious thing that we do in bed because we
So
just
obvious.
don't know why we do it. Why would you end the day unconscious and basically paralysed and leave yourself available to attack by predators unless there is some fantastic evolutionary benefit that outweighs the risk? And the fact is, we just don't know. People have thought it was to do with energy conservation.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous because you actually don't save much energy.
Really?
No, not when you sleep, no.
How many days can you go without sleep for before you die?
If you stay awake for 17 hours, it's the same as having 2 glasses of wine in terms of how it would affect your performance.
Red wine or white wine? Because if it's white wine, then I'll just start crying.
Oh, would you? Oh, you're bad drunk.
Yeah, I'd never once drunk more than 2 glasses of white wine and not use the phrase, "Why don't you just dump me then?"
Even to people who you're not in a relationship.
No, you save about 110 calories each night, so a two-finger Kit Kat is 107. It's not a lot, is it?
That's the only energy saving.
That's the only energy saving.
So when you wake up in the morning, you can have a two-fingered Kit Kat?
Help yourself.
Gratis.
Yeah, it totally wipes it all out, frankly.
It's a classy breakfast.
So the theory that I like best, there have been some scientists at the University of Rochester Medical Center in New York, and they think it's when our brains are cleaned. There's a professor, Maiken Nithergork, and she says you can think of it like having a house party. You can either entertain the guests or clean up the house, but you can't really do both at the same time. That's the theory. But how much you sleep depends on your own circadian rhythm. So I didn't sleep very much. Anybody here a good sleeper?
I've got a 5-month-old baby, so I only sleep in hour-and-a-half chunks at the moment.
So have you just come for a break just tonight?
This is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Are you a good sleeper now? Do you sleep well?
Yeah, I can sleep a lot, yeah.
Apparently what you should do to find out how much you need to sleep is you should spend a week not having an alarm clock at all, and you should let your body just wake up when it needs to and log how many hours, and if you need 6 hours and you need to get up at 7 a.m, then you know what time you've got to go
Yes,
to bed.
but Sandy, you need a wee at 5.
Yes.
No matter what.
Yeah, it's very annoying. Yeah. And it's not like you particularly have that much wee to do.
You get there and you think, why have you woken me up for that? I would rather have just left that in the bed. We could have just done it in the morning.
Also, sometimes, in the middle of the night wee, you can start thinking about something stressful or get frightened by noises in the house.
What kind of animal can you eat without killing it? Reg.
Crabs, unintentionally. In the south.
Yeah.
In the deep south, in the bayou, on the bayou. Yeah, freshwater mussels, they just pick them right out of the water, and they'll have these tiny pink crabs crawling on them, and they're considered a delicacy. And they're alive. They're alive when you swallow them.
These are things you can eat fully, animal food stuff, but you don't kill the animal.
So something that sort of comes through like sweet corn, except it's still running around. Oh! Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying it passes through the entire digestive system.
Right,
no.
oh, right.
No.
But it stays in you and
this
sets up a community.
Whatever they put in Yakult. Well, they which on about that, don't
yes,
they?
Bifidus digestivum.
How?
Or L. Casei
How
stupid do they think we are?
Don't you know these things? I'm so
impressed.
impressed.
I spend a lot of time watching television, and listening to the new made-up science is very entertaining.
I love the made-up science when they go, do you want to buy a tiny pot of off milk?
Yes! And they say it's always such a good deal. Just try it for 9 weeks, and then if you don't feel better, then give up, because actually, if everyone tries it for 9 weeks, we're in the money.
No, because, I mean, actually, in a sense, you're probably right about bacteria, which would possibly pass through us and all the way and not be killed. But this is actually a delicacy. I'm inclined to give the point to Rich, because he's sort of accidentally right, only he's sort of wrong as well.
It's not a story of my life.
It's one of the most popular foods, almost a national dish in some ways, of Florida.
Tapeworm.
Not tapeworm. No, it's a type of crab. It's a stone crab.
Oh, right.
Stone crab claws are very popular. There is a stone crab, and the fishermen catch the crab, they snap off the claws and throw the crab back in, and it takes about a year for its claws to grow back. But it is considered a great delicacy, usually served with a sort of butter and mustard sauce, very popular indeed in restaurants up and down America, but particularly, as I say, in Florida.
What does it do for a year, then, armless down, wandering about?
I mean, it's up to himself.
So the crab is dismayed when it loses its claws, thinking, now I can't get any work done. All that stuff, I'm trying to rearrange the seabed. It'll be a year before I can do any of that. I'm just going to have to lay up. It's almost like they're sort of fruit-bearing animals, aren't they?
That's pretty similar to that, exactly.
Yeah.
Like an apple tree has its apples taken off, but the next year it grows more apples.
So maybe they're trees. They're just seafoody trees.
Yeah,
They can walk around.
Same DNA.
You could have given me as an answer as well. There are certain tribesmen in the Masai Mara in northern Tanzania and Kenya who will drink the blood of cattle. You know, not kill them, but sort of slit the throat a bit and drink the blood, mix it with milk, actually. And then they bind up the wound again, and so they don't kill the cow. But that practice is dying out a bit.
They mix it with milk, so they think that cattle have 2 drinks. You can have one or the other, or a mixture of the 2. Fantastic, these 2-drink animals.
anyway, stone crabs it is. They're returned to the sea alive and their claws have been taken off. Over the next year, they grow a replacement, although it's never quite as good as the first one.
Thank you for watching. Do remember to subscribe to the QI channel and click here to watch more videos. Well, please, come on, pick something.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived at our first destination, which is India. And what I want to know is which of these two gentlemen is going to make the better policeman?
Well, one of them's noticed the camera and is presumably about to arrest the photographer, and that seems to be what policemen do nowadays, so I'll go with that one.
Interesting.
I'll say the
And
one...
he's got a biro.
Yeah, the one with the pen. I was writing notes down. And also the other one seems to be more concerned with how he's looking. He's smiling, chatting away. The other one's a bit more sober, more professional.
I think it's the guy in white behind them. He's plain clothes. He's mingling in, he's mingling.
You've missed the one detail that the state of Madhya Pradesh will actually pay policemen an extra 30 rupees a month to grow a moustache.
Really?
They consider that policemen are better. They're better in all kinds of ways. They're less intimidating, they work better with the community, they're more respected by the public. Yes, they're extraordinary.
It's bad news never ceases to disappoint, does it?
Well, it's not unique to India. British had pretty weird ideas about moustaches. In India, they're considered a sign of virility, but at the moment there's a north-south divide. In the north of India, it's rarer to have moustaches because in Bollywood and the cricket team, of course, the great heroes, tend not to have moustaches. But in the south, in Tamil cinema, they all have moustaches. Everybody has a moustache. And that is just considered absolutely...
It's Steve Wright in the afternoon, isn't it? I've never trusted a moustache. I'm pretty the other way.
That's very interesting, because in the British Army, in 1860 onwards, it was a regulation that every soldier had to have a moustache. You could be imprisoned for shaving your upper lip. Right up until the First World War, then you had the option of being able to shave off your moustache. So it's not unique to India.
Why did they suddenly in the First World War? Suddenly we're fighting total war. The moustache, that was clearly ridiculous, the moustache. So surely they'd think, if we need moustaches, we need them more than ever now. I think it should be beards.
There, they give you a certain, don't they? I think so. But this, yes, sort of moustache is going to win. Thank you. It's going to win a war, isn't it? But as you can see there, that's British soldiers, typical British soldiers, all of them moustache.
I'm just imagining, Stephen, that moustache is going to have its own website by the end of the...
How long do you imagine the longest moustache in the world might be?
24 feet.
Well, that's a little bit too much, actually.
OK.
It's 14 feet. 14 feet. There it is. It's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Wow.
I mean, this man makes a living out of it. He was in the film Octopussy, oddly enough. I can't remember what he did with his moustache, but it is... it's pretty impressive.
Do you distrust him?
Deeply. Very... If he turned up to do a bit of woodwork in the house, you know, and he just did, well, I measure 14 feet, well, I must be... I'd naturally feel...
You wouldn't want to stand at a urinal, would you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dear.
Trailing around on the floor.
Around.
He's ringing him out, that's what he's doing.
You might like to see a picture of some interesting moustaches there. And I have what you might call moustachabilia. These are real things used for people with moustaches that were used in the Great Moustache Growing period. This is simply to drink. It's a little silver, rather beautifully made thing you put in a cup so that you can sip through here without staining your moustache.
Keeps your moustache
Yeah, keeps your moustache nice and dry. Similarly with soup, you would want a soup spoon. You would just sip through that part there.
Oh.
So you take your soup like so, and you just... like that. And again, I keep my moustache nice and dry.
Nice and dry.
What else have I got here? And this, you may remember that
Hadn't invented the straw.
Albert Albert Finney had something like this, didn't he, in Murder on the Orient Express? This is at night when you wish to keep your moustache, and you put this round your ears, like there and there.
What's that for, though? I mean, what? You say you want to keep your moustache. Keep your moustache from what?
Escaping.
Wild creatures of the night, I don't know. People who might come and nibble at it in the evenings.
There's a slight air of gimp about it.
There is. It's something a little unusual, isn't there?
The odd thing is that people who are using that spoon and that drink cover, they're people who don't want to look stupid. I don't want to look like a complete arse.
An idiot.
So excuse me while I get out all my paraphernalia for keeping soup off my moustache.
It is true. What you're saying is entirely true.
How many wives did Henry VIII have?
Cashier number 4, please.
6. The 6 wives of Henry VIII.
Just because other people have made the mistake, it's no excuse for you to make it too.
He had 6 wives.
He had major commitment problems, didn't he? I imagine every time he said, "Oh, it's not you, it's me." And then I suppose they had a trial separation, which involved a brief trial and a very major separation.
Of head from shoulders, exactly right.
It must have been very difficult for the new woman in his life each time. She'd say, "Oh, I don't know, Henry. Everywhere I look, I just see her face because it's on a pole."
Absolutely no. Yes.
Can I just say something interesting about
Please
Henry
do.
VIII?
Yes.
Right, when he died and his body was moved from Greenwich up to wherever it went, Selfridges or somewhere.
Maybe Westminster Abbey. We'll check on that.
Maybe Westminster Abbey, possibly Kentucky Fried Chicken. I don't know. But his guts were so rotten and it was such a hot day that his stomach exploded.
Oh, what a
Isn't that a nice
thought.
image?
Yes, he was syphilitic and he was huge and he was a mess of a man.
He sounds
by that
bloody
time.
gorgeous.
As a young man, he was. As a young man, he was considered one of the most attractive men in all of Renaissance Europe. He was much
I
admired.
prefer
He was athletic,
syphilitic
musical,
and
poetic.
bloated myself.
Yes, he did get a bit
Because
bloated. I
at
can't
least
understand
they're
people who do. No, yes, it's an interesting fact. The real answer is 3 or 4. Henry's 4th marriage to Anne of Cleves was annulled on 2 grounds. It was never consummated, and she was already betrothed to Francis, Duke of Lorraine. This was correct in law at the time, and all parties agreed that no legal marriage had ever taken place. That leaves 5 wives. The Pope declared Henry's 2nd marriage to Anne Boleyn void because Henry was still married to his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. And the king himself, as head of the new Church of England, declared that his first marriage was invalid on the correct legal ground that a man could not marry his brother's wife, and Catherine Aragon had been married to his brother Arthur.
Did he or did he not have 6 weddings?
Yes, he did, but that wasn't the question I asked.
And did he say, "This is my wife"? 6 different people. 6 different mothers-in-law all said of him, "He is my bloated syphilitic son-in-law."
But by his 2nd marriage, he said he'd never been married because he'd never had a wife, because his first wife he could not be married
What
to.
about all the
Catherine of Aragon.
family saying, "Yes, you did, we were there"?
We were there at the wedding.
We heard the speeches, they'd wake up in the morning dead, wouldn't they?
But there was no legal spousal status. That's the point we're trying to make. But of
How
course,
many toast racks did he have?
that's the way. Count the toast racks and
Now,
you'll find out.
can I ask a question about that painting?
Yes.
Is it all wrong in perspective? It looks 2D to me.
All Holbein's pictures are a bit flat.
They
'Cause
are.
He did one of Martin Luther, and it's very flat.
Yes.
It's like a pancake. Or
Though he could certainly do perspective tricks because he did a marvellous one, which you have to see from below, didn't you? We may find a
Oh,
picture.
yeah,
of
that's
it one
what
day.
he said after he bollocks it up. You have to see it from below.
It was very...
Holbein's really
It
made
was
a
a sort of
crap job
elongated
of it.
skulls and things, and then when you move underneath it, the foreshortening effect of actually being under the painting, it suddenly becomes exactly the right proportion.
Michelangelo painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel.
Good Lord, you are extraordinary. How do you do these things?
It took 4 years.
Yeah.
Which is the same length of time it takes to paint the Forth Bridge in Scotland.
You're struggling towards being interesting. may have to give you 2 points. Does anyone remember, there's a wonderful line in that film, The Agony and the Ecstasy, which is about where Charlton Heston plays Michelangelo and Rex Harrison
Charlton
plays...
Heston plays Michelangelo?
Yes.
Yeah, the effete Italian homosexual?
Yeah, that's the one.
Played by the president of the gun club?
He was an athletic Italian homosexual.
I thought he was a wussy one.
He may well have preferred man-on-man action. That doesn't mean he was Julian Clary. He could have been butch like me.
When I say wussy one, I don't mean he was gay. I mean he was a bit of a...
No.
I thought
You've got it the other way round.
I thought Da Vinci was the hard case.
No, Michelangelo was an animal. He was physical.
Michelangelo was.
Strong,
he never washed.
Very strong.
He
That's
stank.
right. Beard and
Alan Yentob said this.
But he preferred to take it up with Gary Glitter. There we are. Now, depending on whether you believe the Pope or indeed the King or both.
Now, here's one of the oddest things about Iceland is, well, I'll show you. Have a look at this. These are Icelandic. What do you reckon they are?
Legs.
Yes. If I were to tell you that those are empty, does that help?
Hollow leg.
Yeah.
Oh, they're Icelandic cock pants. Is it because, like, when you go out on the beach, everything shrinks? So you basically just put them on, and then it gives you a little bit of...
Just, yeah,
profile.
Are they a pair of trousers, a pair of ski pants?
They are a pair of
Human
trousers made of human skin.
Nice.
Yeah. They are on display at the Icelandic Museum of Witchcraft, which is an extraordinary place because Icelandic witchcraft is pretty odd. And what happens is you ask a friend, right, that when he dies, can you have his skin?
Can I have your legs?
And if he gives you permission, you then flay the skin below the waist, all of it completely in one piece, right? And you wear them as sort of tights, right? It gets weirder. You then have to steal from a widow a coin. And you put the coin inside the scrotal area, the sac there, which you see the whole thing is more or less complete.
If it's a blow.
With a written incantation. And then...
You open a bank.
And that's how the Icelandic economy works. Yes. Well, then apparently, well, they sort of do, because then the scrotum apparently fills with money. So that's the incantation. They're sort of necropants. There is an official word for them. Yeah, dead pants, yeah.
That's the sort of thing you see advertised at 3 o'clock in the morning. Eurosport. Do you want necro pants?
I think the name is Nabrok. Now, I've got a little task for you to do, a little Christmas party game. I've got these phone books here, and what's happened is they've been interleaved. That's all it is. There's no glue or anything. They've literally, like a pack of cards, one page inside another. So it's two...
It must have taken ages.
So it did. Our props people are very proud of their work. There you are.
We'll share.
All I want you to do, you've got ropes there, is just pull them apart. So you can take one each.
Can't be done.
Go on, pull them apart.
It can't be done.
Go on. There you go. Try. You can't, can you?
It can't be done.
You literally can't. It's quite extraordinary. Strong as Brian is...
Go on, try and pull, Brian, pull.
All it is...
Sean's alive!
How come your water wasn't spilt? That's magical.
Yes, it's an old trick. Me and Brian have been doing this trick for years.
But that is, I think, proof positive.
I'm trying to sit on the top of my tipped-up chair.
A man as strong as Brian, he may be able to pull Sean off his chair, but it can't be done. In fact, you need 8,000 pounds of force in order to do it.
Really?
It really is quite bizarre. It's friction. And it's just replicated each time. I know, it is. It's so...
This time
if you loosen them...
This time it's me. This time it's perfect.
Having a tantrum.
Still can't do it.
What's the best way to weigh your own head? Any thoughts?
Well, cut it off, obviously, would be the
Yes,
most
but
accurate way.
then someone else could weigh it, but you couldn't, you see? That would be the problem. You wouldn't, and the question was...
Because you introduced us, and I normally introduce me last.
Yeah.
It slightly caught me out, and I was applauding myself.
I'm
Davis!
That's what...
And I was applauding myself insincerely.
That's what Soviet leaders do, isn't it? Or chimpanzees. Yeah. One or the other. Yeah.
Why would you want to weigh your own head? It's a sort of a boy's thing, isn't it? You can imagine some poor woman married to a scientist and she's at home and she's wormed the dog and fed the children and got everything sorted and her husband gets home and goes, "Good news, dear, I've weighed my own head."
I grant you, it may not seem like the most useful thing to do, but it does employ interesting scientific ideas on which we all depend.
Is it that thing that David Frost used to tell that joke for years and years? The, do you want to lose 12 pounds of unsightly fat? Cut off your head.
Is that his joke?
He used to tell that a lot, yeah.
What is one of the most famous ancient moments of scientific discovery?
Well, Archimedes. Isn't Archimedes in the bath?
Archimedes in the bath. Now, tell me, what did Archimedes do and why did he...
So would you just put your head in the bucket?
Oh, right. Oh, is that right?
I have no idea.
Yes, join in.
I was going to weigh myself, go to the swimming baths.
Yeah.
Right, and bob, and then get people to feed me until I sank. And then come back out and weigh myself again.
Yeah.
And
that sounds much more scientific.
So by displacement of the water, you can tell...
Yeah, you take a big bucket and you fill it full of water and you drop your head in, and because water and the density of your head are about the same, you get a very close approximation by the amount of water that you displace.
You could put apples in to make it
You
fun.
could bob for apples to make it fairer, yes.
And what did your head weigh when you tried this?
What would you say is the average weight? The University of Sydney has a department where they weigh heads quite a lot, and they have a pretty good average.
By dunking them in buckets, do they?
They don't actually dunk them in buckets.
Is it 12 pounds?
It's 4.5 to 5 kilos, which is...
I have no idea.
Well, that's
5 kilos is 11
kilos. Not far. Yeah.
2.2. It's about 12 pounds.
Yes, about 12 pounds. Well done. I'm going to give you a point for 12 pounds, John.
I've negotiated some points.
Surely you should give those points to David Frost, who thought of the 12 pounds in the first place.
Well, that's true. Or
If
who's
only
right
he
he
hadn't
did.
cut his head off.
Yeah.
What if you get an air pocket in your ears?
A pocket.
You know, the air pockets?
Yes, but the air cavities are cancelled out
Take your
by
fingers out,
the...
you won't hear the answer.
The bones, you have bones that are denser than water and air pockets that are lighter than water, and together it does seem that the head averages about water, so it's a good displacement test. But there is a modern piece of technology that can do it to frightening degrees of accuracy.
Bound to be a laser or something like that.
No, it's a CAT scan, a CT, and they can tell the density of every little tiniest part of the brain and the skull and all the rest of it, and tot it all up.
My dad's got heavy eyes.
Has he now?
Yeah.
Have you weighed his eyes? Or
No, we've not weighed him, but he's very fearful of leaning forward.
Do they come out?
It's a sleigh. He
crash through his
He doesn't like leaning forward. He thinks they're going to come out.
Like the springs, like those things you can buy.
No, we got rid of novelty, Dad. This is mental, Dad.
Do you know, my grandfather had 2 glass eyes, and yet he could see. So what happened was he's sad. He lost one eye, but he wasn't careless. He was ill, and he had a glass eye made, which was perfect, exactly like his other perfectly working blue Scandinavian eye. And then he had one made that was bloodshot, and it was known as Grandpa's party eye. And he kept it in a box on the mantelpiece. And when he was going out for the evening, he'd take out the false blue one, and he'd put in the bloodshot one, and he'd say, "I'm going out now, and I shan't be back till they match."
Oh, that's brilliant! That's brilliant. Fantastic. And I seem to remember you
I
telling
thought
me...
he had 2 glass eyes like that.
I know, that would be silly.
Did he have a hole at the back where somebody put that? Was your granddad Nookie Burr?
On the subject of heads, do you know anything about Sir Francis Drake? No, I don't mean Sir Francis Drake. But as I've mentioned him, do you know anything about him?
Something to do with bowling.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He was in the Navy.
Let's move on from Francis Drake. Thanks for bringing up. What do you know about Sir Walter Raleigh?
He invented the bicycle.
His wife carried his head around in a bag for more than 30 years after he died.
Excellently
A velvet
correct.
bag.
A red velvet bag, yes. So Walter was executed. And,
See why John had to invent a show for this kind of information.
Yes, exactly.
Carries around with him.
You carried around much as Lady Raleigh carried around the head.
It was on Buzzcocks last week.
Was it?
What sort of a bag? Was it a sealed bag? Like
It was a sort of velvet...
Like a cool box?
I don't know. People did keep heads.
I bet it was a few years before anybody wanted to sit next to her at dinner.
Oh, that was Lady Raleigh, I'm
yes,
sure
do you not
that's true.
think?
Oh, I'm sure.
People go, oh, she's not going to bring the head, is she?
Very fine. Don't know how we got there, but like many of the questions in tonight's show, there's no one correct answer, but dunking your head in a bucket might...
Why were the keys in a QWERTY keyboard arranged the way they are?
Now, this is... it makes it more difficult to type.
Yes, right.
And they wanted to slow it up.
They wanted to slow, you were saying, typists down. No, what it is the ones that most commonly are done together in English were put furthest apart, so they were less likely to jam. So, in fact, it was in order to allow you to type more smoothly and speedily, so that you didn't get the jamming of the keys as they came up and hit each other.
Oh, I see.
Of course, these days, we don't use mechanical typewriters in that way, with the keys flopping up. That's how I learned to type. And...
Enormous typewriters.
That's tiny! I loved typewriters so much. I was obsessed with them.
Really?
Absolutely adored them, yeah.
Stephen?
Yeah.
Dinner's ready.
It's true. I once copied out a whole novel on the typewriter.
Just to practice?
Yeah, just because I enjoyed the experience.
Or were you going to try and sell it as your own?
Just, yeah.
While other people were getting on with their lives,
Yeah.
you were doing...
What can I
It's the
tell
sort
you?
of man you are.
I'm sad.
I'm so modest.
What novel was it? This is important.
It was Frozen Assets by P.G. Wodehouse. It was not one of his best-known novels. Look! I'm sorry!
It's amazing you've come so far, isn't it?
Yes, what I like to do in my spare time. I write out Proust, use my nail and I chip it into an old bit of flint.
No,
get off, Nanny, I haven't finished yet.
Such a bully! You mean?
Sir, Fry's copying out novels again. Sir, chipping them. He's using a hammer and a chisel. He's chiselled out War and Peace on the South Downs. You really do live a different life to all the rest. You're not like us, are you? You're another mortal. You're like sent from some other planet. You are the planet Aesthete. That's what you are.
I just thought that was normal.
No, you're not.
Oh, well.
No, you're
Anyway.
You're a freak.
They say of the Acropolis, where the Parthenon is... They say of the Acropolis where the Parthenon is... They say of the Acropolis where the Parthenon is... that they...
It turns out they didn't say anything at all. I think it might
They say of the Acropolis where the Parthenon is...
Everyone!
They say of the Acropolis where the Parthenon is. They say of the Acropolis where the Parthenon is. They say where the Parthenon is. Fight!
Bloody hell, Stephen. This better be good.
Moving on. So, the triglyph is a remnant of the stone...
Sorry, I've just got a question. What do they say about the Acropolis where the Parthenon is?
They say...
What do they say? What do they say?
He's going to say, 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 he's going to say. What do they say about the Acropolis where the Parthenon is?
Can I write it down? Read it, it says it there.
tell us now.
They say of the Acropolis that there are no straight lines. Damn, that hurt.
Do they?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Is it going to be a 50-mile-long tunnel or a bridge or something like that?
What we've got out of the way, because it's hanging here like a worry, is it's not the Great Wall of China.
Oh, OK.
Try a continent where it might be.
Europe.
OK. Europe is not where it is.
Asia.
Australia. Nor Asia, nor Australia.
North America.
Nor North America.
South America.
Nor South America.
Antarctica.
Nor Antarctica.
Arctic.
No. Russia.
Africa.
Africa! Thank you.
Really hope Ban Ki-moon isn't watching this one.
No, it's
So is it an Egyptian? Is it North?
It's Nigeria, in fact.
Oh.
It's Great Earthworks of Benin.
The Great Earthworks of Benin.
Yeah. Sometimes called the Walls of Benin.
The walls called Benin.
Defensive
the
earthworks.
earthen walls of Benin in...
dug by the Edo people. 10,000 miles in length.
Of it.
10,000
miles. By the Edos.
10,000 miles in length.
How could I forget?
I know. 4 times longer than the Great Wall of China.
Okay.
Puny little wall.
Consumed 100 times more material than the Great Pyramid of Cheops. Took 700 years and an estimated 150 million hours of digging. Severely damaged by the British when we sacked and burned Benin in 1897.
Aren't the British? Yes, well, they just wouldn't do as they were told. There's only so much gentle persuasion we've got time for. Sack and burn them, fuck the earthworks.
More or less exactly what happened. Yeah.
And then we twisted the knife by not remembering Africa existed.
What did they build it for?
Defensive.
Keep out the British, I imagine.
Because you could argue that the Eurasian road network is a bigger thing because it covers Portugal all the way to Siberia.
You can drive across
so
the
It's
whole
all connected by road.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
So who do we take this up with? The Guinness Book of Records? Or do we go to Nigeria?
And it was...
Okay, I think you found we've got something bigger, actually.
Further twist the knife again.
What's so dangerous about flying through an asteroid field?
Impact with an asteroid? No, there isn't a danger.
There isn't a danger. It's no more dangerous than flying through normal space, so we have to blame science fiction here.
What?
Yes.
What? Why?
Well, because they're always portrayed as being unbelievably dense and treacherous, full of spinning rocks and debris.
Yes.
The truth is, the average distance between asteroids is about 600,000 miles. Most of the objects, when you do come across one, about the size of a tennis ball.
I don't think that's right. And again, I know you guys are all sitting there with your science and stuff like that, but no.
OK. 12 spacecraft have so far travelled through our solar system's asteroid belt. None of them has ever come even close to
But that's
colliding.
your issue right there, Sandy
What?
Toksvig. Our solar system. I'm talking about the other solar systems that exist.
All the other ones
All
that we
the
don't
other ones
know about.
that we don't know about that might look like that.
I weirdly was sticking to facts we knew.
You should have QI brackets Earth version.
Yeah, that's it. The chances of being hit by an asteroid is about 1 in a billion if you go into an
That would
asteroid.
be really
The chances of anything coming from Mars are 1,000,000 to 1. They say, woo, wee, wee.
Where's that song from?
That's from Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. When I was younger, we only had one tape in the car for summer holidays, and it was that one tape, and we listened to it for 10 years.
That's a really long holiday.
We had the same with Joseph's Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Oh, yeah.
A flash of light, my golden coat flew out of sight.
Colours melted into darkness. I was left alone. May I return? To the beginning.
The world and I. We are still dreaming.
The asteroid belt contains a lot less material than you might think. Why is this skirt called?
That really was intolerable.
That was terrible. And you, all of you.
What does Sigmund Freud, Mark Twain, Henry James, a loony from Newcastle, and the Holy Ghost have in common?
Well, Mark Twain, I know had a link, but I don't know about the others. He was sceptical about Shakespeare because he thought that Toff wrote it. He didn't believe that a normal boy from Stratford
That's
could write.
right.
Could write
He
properly.
was what you might call exactly a Shakespearean skeptic, as were the others. That's to say, Sigmund Freud also believed that, and Henry James, and the Professor Looney, that was unfortunately his name, though I believe it was pronounced Loney, from Newcastle, who wrote a book in 1920 called Shakespeare Identified. There was this whole movement, started in the 19th century, really, with the idea that it might have been Francis Bacon who wrote the works of Shakespeare. There was particularly a woman called Delia Bacon, who was an American and was completely insane, really. She came over to England and wrote a 625-page book.
God.
In which she didn't even mention the name Bacon. And then when she died, she claimed she was the Holy Spirit.
She claimed she was the Holy
Yes.
Spirit.
So the Holy Spirit, if she was right, also doesn't believe Shakespeare wrote Shakespeare. So if Bacon was one candidate, there are two other main candidates.
Oh, hang on. What was it?
Marlowe.
Christopher Marlowe.
Christopher Marlowe is one candidate. But the most popular
Earl of
one...
Oxford?
The Earl of Oxford is, yes, indeed, Edward de Vere.
Is that Edward de Vere?
That's Edward de Vere.
Wow.
He won't be happy
There's a
with
lot
that.
going on there, isn't there?
There is, isn't there?
How does he keep that hat on?
It's sort of Kate Blanchett with a moustache.
But, no, there are serious people. I mean, Freud liked the fact that he lost his father early on, like Hamlet, because, of course, he had an Oedipus complex theory about Hamlet, Freud, so he liked that idea. Who else? Looney invented a rather fanciful scenario because the Earl of Oxford died in 1604, and Shakespeare carried on writing plays many years after that. So
That might almost be the point at which to abandon the theory.
Yeah, you'd think. Instead of which he claimed that before dying he'd left a whole sheaf of plays and that his servant, Shakespeare, then just produced them one after the other.
Isn't the Tempest written sort of 4 or 5 years after he died? 6 years, maybe, even after he died, referencing sort of stuff of the time. So after De Vere's dead.
Yes, quite.
He probably just left insert topical gag here.
Yeah, that's right. But there are Mark Rylance and Derek Jacobi, both supreme actors, and they both believe that it was the Earl of Oxford. There isn't a shred of evidence, as far as I can see.
It sort of doesn't matter. On the basis that what Shakespeare means to people is the guy that wrote those plays. And so if the guy that wrote those plays is a different guy that wrote those plays, that's still what a great guy.
Yes.
It's not an earth-shattering conspiracy, really, is it? That
No.
perhaps it isn't him?
Over 5,000 books on the subject, incredibly. Yeah, I know, it's extraordinary.
Yeah, no scrap of evidence.
Not real evidence, to be honest. No, it's just speculation. And the odd thing is, they often say, well, we know so little about Shakespeare. There are very, very few people of the Elizabethan era about whom we know more. I mean, Ben Jonson, for example, who was a very famous playwright. We don't even know where Ben Jonson was born or how many children he had.
If other people were writing the plays, why didn't they say so at the time?
Well, quite. I mean,
that's the bit I don't understand. It always seems to go that he didn't write all that. Wouldn't it have come out if other people had written?
Yeah, but if it was Ben Jonson or any of those others, jolly good luck to them, I say.
Was it just because he wasn't posh? Does it just come? Does it
That
come down
is
to basic
kind of
class
snobbery.
system?
They think, well, he was just this kid from Warwickshire and he was a woodlander, and but in fact, his father was a glover, which is a perfectly decent trade, as you say, and he went to the grammar school there almost certainly. And
He's sort of, you'd think, exactly as far up the society as you'd expect a major writer to be.
Yes.
Not, you know, it's not like now the best novels are written by the Duke of Westminster.
Now, his vocabulary. How many words do you think he used? I'm not counting repeats. He used a lot, obviously.
Yeah. Dagger, murder.
This could take us a long time, yes.
Well, we've got to start somewhere.
You've got to start somewhere, you're right. Yeah.
5,000, yeah.
They're 20,000 words. 20,000 words. And how does that compare to the average vocabulary of a Briton, would we say, roughly? That we
4 times as much.
No, half as much. Half as much.
Less.
Surprisingly, yes. I mean, we're not saying that Shakespeare used every word he knew in his books. I'm sure he left lots out. I don't remember the word clitoris.
He didn't use hard drive.
I think it's in the second folio.
Oh, it might be. So it's about half that of the average modern English person's vocabulary, because obviously he didn't have certain words to call on, like, you know, texting or vajazzle or whatever. But on the other hand, he did have, you know, guerdon and bodkin and fardel, which we don't use so much.
Yoghurt,
Yoghurt. I don't suppose Shakespeare knew what yoghurt was.
Broadband.
Broadband. That's it. There are a lot of words. In The Sun, David Crystal, who's a well-known linguistic fellow, and he estimated there would be about 6,000 words in any complete issue of The Sun, whereas the King James Bible has just 8,000. So this idea that we're all dumbed down to a lower vocabulary is not necessary.
What begins with A has 6 C's and no B's. Clive.
Is it the Welsh alphabet? I'm only guessing. You haven't mentioned the L's, which are there.
No L's mentioned. That would be the clincher.
No B's.
No B's, as in
no B's like that. Or so
is it
6 C's as in the ocean? 6 C's. 6 C's. With A.
It's America. There are no states in America beginning with B, and then there are 6 C's. There must be California, there are 2 Carolinas, Connecticut. I think there are 6. So I think I've come up with the right, though possibly also wrong answer. But I'm terrifically pleased with it. I don't care if I get any points or not.
No, you don't get points, but you certainly get the admiration of us all.
I'm not feeling admiration.
You work better at it. But on the other hand, let's turn our attention to the question.
Antarctica.
Brilliant, thank you very much. It is the right answer.
See?
Quite right.
Well, I think I'm right. I'm not accepting this.
But that's not strictly true, is it? Because, of course, you have the Antarctican ice bee.
If you did, then the question would be meaningless.
Yes.
I wouldn't put it beyond you to go now to Antarctica with a bee in a matchbox. Just so you could get a point. Bees and a honeybee. You worked out the thrust of the question.
Yes.
Bees as in buzz, 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 and seas as in oceans. It is bordered by the Ross Sea, the Davis Sea, the Weddell Sea, the Bellinghausen Sea, the Lazarev Sea, and the Amundsen Sea. But not one, as I say, not one little member of the 92,000 hymenopteral bees and wasps exists or has its being in Antarctica.
The what bees?
They form part of the group Hymenoptera.
Hymen?
It means wedding in Greek, and there was a myth about the bees officiating at the wedding of Zeus, which I told you about a few weeks ago, and I remember you being very bored by it then. I'm disappointed that you haven't remembered.
The bees in charge of a wedding?
They catered for the wedding.
Well,
how they came
mainly
up with
honey-based.
They came up with honey. They invented honey specifically for...
Who might use a left-handed motorbike? Oh.
Funny outfit I've got on.
Yeah, do you remember wearing that?
No. I remember that motorbike ride, though. It was exhilarating.
Is it one-armed men?
No. I guess they would have a use for it. But there was a real market for
By
left-handed.
which you mean throttle on the left?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Was it something to do with needing your right hand free for holding a gun, or?
Yes.
I don't know. Guess
Spot on. Holding a gun.
Yeah. Where can I get one of these motorbikes?
They turned the company that made them, the Indian Motorcycle Company, Motocycle, in fact, they call themselves. There they are, the Indians. It's an American motorcycle company. Between the wars, they were the largest motorcycle company in the world. And part of it was because they sold so many of these left-handed bikes to...
Cowboys.
To cowboys? Was
the
it?
police.
Oh, the police.
Police all over America. So the police could drive and accelerate and decelerate and kill people with guns at the same time.
Why didn't they just fix a bayonet on the front?
That would be...
In fact, I'm thinking of getting one of those for my motorbikes for cyclists.
Really?
Yeah.
Bayonet?
Not to stab them or anything, just to go, cheeky, Just a cheeky little...
It needs to be a bayonet, then.
Well, if you can use a bayonet, then use a bayonet. That's what I think.
It could be something else, like
a broom handle.
Cucumber or something. Yeah, you don't need a right... If you've just got a bloke in your side car with a Tommy gun, you're fine.
I know, unfortunately, that was the only photograph we could find. I've got some left-handed things here, some of which you can see the point of. This is a left-handed sort of biro or pen. It's a rather peculiar it's shape, though.
It makes me feel slightly sick looking at it.
It's strange. I think the idea is you don't...
But don't they
so you
say
don't
that,
smudge.
Like, left-handed people are, like, naturally evil. That's what they say, isn't it? That's a well-known fact. Those pens... do all they write just like, I will kill again, I will kill again. That's all you can write with it.
Possessed pen, the left-handed pen, is it?
It's really hard to write with.
This is a left-handed... Do you want to try that? Try it with your right-handed...
It's just going to drive me crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if any left-handed people in the audience have ever found that pencil sharpeners are a real bore for in a right-handed world.
That has already annoyed me.
Well, that's how a lefty-handed person would feel.
Last thing you want to do.
With ours, then.
Well, they should have just adapted when they were younger. What's wrong with having a stutter?
It's not a condition, being left-handed. It's
You
not
really-
an illness.
Well, you say that.
No, left-handed scissors, of course, are quite well known.
Oh, don't give a left-hander scissors.
They
They'll
used to
stab
make-
you in the face. Stab you in the face as soon as look at you.
It's where the word sinister comes from, isn't it? Isn't that right?
Sinister, indeed, is the Latin for left, yeah. If you're ambisinistrous, what does that mean?
Left-handed and left-footed.
It kind of means you're crap with both hands. Ambidextrous is you're good with both hands. Ambisinistrous are people just can't write with either hand. But this will annoy you then. A left-handed can opener. There you see. But then, just assume that all left-handed people are just as annoyed by right-handed things.
But just
they're a minority,
assume-
so they should be punished.
At least they're warned, you see. One of those could turn up in your kitchen with no warning.
Yeah, you would
turn up in the morning.
The only thing that could annoy Jack more now is if he opens that can and it's all left-handed peaches.
Just imagine. Well, thank you. You can give them back there, because I can see they've upset you.
There is a left-handed shop where you can buy all these things, and my sister is left-handed, and I actually thought one Christmas, I will buy her something, you know, there'll be a thoughtful thing. And there's a shot, goes straight, bang, right into it, and of course the door opened on the other side.